No, this is not okay. Yeah, it's Muscle Man. We got a code 676767. Hey, 67!
Hello every pony, it's that super duper special time again, since it's time for yet another cartoon ranking video. After my last ranking on Avatar, you guys voted and overwhelmingly wanted me to review Regular Show. I seriously didn't expect one series to win in a blowout and thought all four of them had a decent shot at winning, but I guess a lot of you just really like Regular Show. Anyway, I remember seeing commercials promoting the series back in 2010, which makes me feel really old. Pretty sure I watched the premiere when it aired and kept up with it for about the first 3 seasons or so. But like I've said before in my other rankings, I stopped watching TV sometime in 2013, so because of that, I haven't seen much past the 3rd season. I knew CJ was a character, the last season had them go to space, and that the later seasons weren't considered as good as the early ones. So yeah, I have a decent amount of nostalgia for the first few seasons, but even then, Regular Show was never something I'd consider one of my favorites. I always liked the show and I had my favorite episodes, but there wasn't anything groundbreaking about it. It has a great nostalgic vibe, the formula works or worked really damn well early on, and a lot of the characters were likable and memorable. I get why so many people love the show, and on a rewatch I was able to appreciate a lot of those first few seasons even more now. The later seasons though, I'll get to those in a bit, but either way, guess I better start going over the rules because this is going to be a long ass video. So first off, I will be reviewing every single episode, including the pilot, the movie, and even all the shorts too. Second, there are going to be episodes that you like that I don't, and ones that I like that you don't. If you want to discuss your thoughts on an episode or multiple episodes, then comment below. Third, I will be rating each episode on a score of 1 to 10. Fourth, some episodes might be slightly out of order since some people count the 22-minute episodes as 2 different ones, which is just stupid. There might also be like 1 or 2 episodes that are out of order on the DVD box set, which is how I watch the series. Speaking of that, it wouldn't be a ranking video without me complaining about the DVDs, so let's quickly get this over with. The complete series DVD is exactly what I thought it would be. It's a set containing every episode, and it even includes the movie too. It doesn't have any of the shorts, which is disappointing, but I can forgive that. However, what I can't forgive is this packaging, which is horrendous. This is a 20-disc set. All of the discs are layered, which is annoying, but on top of that, most of the discs are stacked too. I don't care if this is an extremely cheap and lazy DVD set that doesn't include any special features like the first 3 seasons did. Fans do enjoy bonus content, but personally, all I care about are having every episode, which besides the shorts, this does include, along with having good packaging. This doesn't. It's fucking awful, and look at how annoying a scenario like this is. If I want to watch season 4 disc 2, I have to take out the top disc, take out the other discs that stack below it, then take out the one on top of season 4 disc 2, and even then, I still have to take the disc out, which scares the shit out of me because it feels like I'm going to break it. This is so frustrating. I could rant about this for at least another 5 minutes, but I'm sure most of you just want me to get to the ranking. So without further ado, let's start with the absolute worst episode of Regular Show, which is
We're going to build a wall.
And now, back to Carter and Briggs Bust Russia.
All right.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a surprise to most of you. Wall Buddy is easily considered one of Regular Show's worst episodes. Rigby gets yelled at to clean his room, and if he doesn't, then both him and Mordecai will have to start paying rent. Mordecai calls out Rigby, which pisses him off, even though he's completely right. The entire mess was caused by him, so why should Mordecai suffer because of Rigby being a lazy jerk? He's been like this in other episodes, but this is easily him at one of his worst. Somehow he's too lazy to throw out all of his garbage, but he's not too lazy to shove everything to Mordecai's side of the room as well as in the closet too. He also buys a wall buddy, which is one of the better ideas in the episode, although that really isn't saying much. It's also hard to enjoy it when Rigby acts like a hobknocker the entire time. Like, Jesus, how can you be this insufferable in one episode? What truly makes this the absolute worst episode though is the lesson. So eventually Rigby admits that he's messy, but yells at Mordecai for taking everyone else's side, even though again, he's completely right. For some reason, Mordecai agrees with him and says that he's right because bros have to look out for each other. That is true that you should support your friend, but not when they're blatantly doing something wrong, especially when it impacts you too. This is such an appalling lesson, and I don't know how they managed to fuck it up so badly. All you had to do was have Rigby apologize for being a messy, lazy jerk, and then the two of them work together to destroy Wall Buddy. That's literally it. But no, instead Mordecai has to take half the blame and even apologize to Rigby for being mad at him, which is awful. Although minor, another annoyance is that this is a season 5 episode, and by this time Rigby should have developed enough to not be this much of a dick waffle. Like I said, he's done some awful things before, but a lot of those were only in the first few seasons. I get that he wasn't as mature as he got in season 6 and 7.
Big mouth.
But even so, it feels like Rigby is from season 1 since he lost any development he got there. Anyway, shout out to LS Mark for having the biggest balls in the world and putting this episode above Skips' story. Listen, I don't care that you like this episode, I'm glad you're able to enjoy something most of us aren't, but how the hell is this better than one of the series' best episodes? That's quite the interesting take, although I will admit that them saying chimichanga is pretty epic.
Some people play the bass,
And some people play the conga.
but I'm about to play.
This chimichanga.
You must die!
Everyone thinks Muscle Man is dying, so they help him go through his bucket list of things he wants to do. I hate this episode so much. I know a decent amount of people aren't big fans of Muscle Man's episodes, but this is easily my pick for his absolute worst. The strange thing is, the main problem doesn't stem that much from Muscle Man, but instead from the plot itself. We all know Muscle Man isn't actually going to die, and seeing everyone sob over him doesn't help too. Like what? The joke is that all his friends think he's dying? That's funny, right?
No.
On one hand, it is nice to see how much they all care for him, but on the other, it results with them hating him, which is kind of deserved. I don't think Muscle Man had any bad intentions here, he's just a fucking idiot, and again, my anger is mainly towards the plot itself. It's just such a bad, unbearable, and predictable story, and I never want to watch it again. The only other nice moment was when Muscle Man proposes Mitch to Starla, but she rejected him since she wants to marry Muscle Man instead. That's alright, and seeing them get engaged is something, but at the same time, I can't really enjoy it because of how much I hate the rest of this.
Rudolph the deep-throat reindeer.
Okay, you guys better turn your ACs on because there are going to be some fiery hot takes in this video, and this is probably going to be the first of them. This is the last as well as the worst Christmas special, and it's basically just another anthology where everyone tells multiple fake stories. I'm not a fan of these types of episodes in general, and I especially can't stand them in regular show, mainly because they did like, what, almost 10 of them? I get that they did Terror Tales at the Park every year because Simpsons did it, but even so, I just don't care for almost any of them. My main problem is that none of them are real, so nothing in them matters at all. Maybe if these were actual canon stories, then I'd give more of a shit while watching, but like I said, I just don't care. Why are there so goddamn many of them? I could get doing like 2 or maybe 3, but they just never stopped and it got old immediately. Another big issue is that a lot of them just aren't that interesting. They're usually too short to develop a thorough and engaging plot, but they also last long enough where I start to lose interest too. I mentioned earlier, but I'll briefly be going over all the shorts, and I'll just say now that for the most part, a lot of them are either decent or at least watchable. They're only 2 minutes long, they're super simple, but they're fine for what they are. These, on the other hand, just don't appeal to me for all the reasons I mentioned. Look at the first one, for example. Everyone goes to an ice planet, they fight some monsters, then Rudolph shows up and kills them, and that's it. The second one has them fight the 12 Days of Christmas, which, I don't know, I didn't find the whole joke funny. It also doesn't help that K&D did this joke way better with the 12 Days of Christmas landing on top of a literal child and almost killing them.
12 drummers drumming, 11 pipers piping, 10 lords a leaping,
12 seconds later.
3 French horns, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree.
The next one has Mordecai and Rigby go to a mall, which shows all their different selves from an alternate timeline. Definitely not a bad idea and could have made for an interesting regular episode, although the ending is pretty lame. The mall closes, however when it does, it destroys itself because why not? It's a step up from the last ones, but I feel like this was a waste of a pretty decent idea. The last one has them fight Krampus, which feels more like Halloween than Christmas. It's another idea that's not bad, but overall, I just didn't care. Guess it's because they already fought a bunch of monsters as well as someone else in the first 2 stories, so this felt pretty repetitive by this point. Maybe this could have worked as a regular 11-minute episode, but as it is, I really could care less. I know I'm being very harsh on this, but where and when this episode takes place is what really frustrates me. This is the 5th to last episode in the series, and it's yet another Christmas special. That's kind of unnecessary, but here's the thing. I'm more than okay with them doing another one, especially since they're in space. You can do pretty much anything in space, and what they did was literally the least interesting thing they could have done. It's yet another fucking anthology, which, let me add, they already did a Halloween special this season. So in this season alone, we got 2 anthology holiday specials for no reason. The thing is, while I still wouldn't like this, I would be more forgiving if they actually had a regular Halloween special instead. They could have agreed to not tell stories for Halloween, but instead they do that on Christmas. That would be different and also sort of funny, but no, we get both because fuck me, I guess. Couldn't we get an episode like Rigby forgetting or still trying to get Eileen a gift and Krampus is trying to stop him because he's been naughty for so many years? I don't know, man. I'm just throwing out random ideas, but pretty much anything else besides this I would have enjoyed more. Also, yeah, like I said, this is very jarring to see as one of the very last episodes. It's sandwiched between multiple important plot-driven episodes, so this is just a wasted filler. You guys can shit on me in the comments. I'm sure I'll have a decent amount of hot takes, but for this, if you enjoy it, I can sort of see why. It's just not my thing.
That's right. Mary.
This is the season 6 finale where Muscle Man is finally getting married and he's going through a mental breakdown since his dad isn't there to be with him and give him advice. This actually sounds really good and could have made for one of Muscle Man's best episodes. But no, instead it's about Mordecai rejecting CJ in front of everyone at Muscle Man's wedding. This is by far the worst thing he's ever done. Kissing Margaret in front of CJ was awful, but this is on a whole new level. If Mordecai wanted to dump CJ or confess that he still has feelings for Margaret, then fine. Go ahead and do that after the wedding. How much of a piece of shit do you have to be to do this at one of your friends' weddings? I know this is Mordecai we're talking about, who literally killed his best friend since he was jealous of a girl who's not even that good, but still, this is appalling even for him. I understand that Mordecai still has feelings for Margaret, but why should that matter when he's in a relationship with CJ? Margaret being around them is a problem, but after finding out that she lied about having a boyfriend should have been the end of all that bullshit drama. CJ now knows that Margaret will lie about stupid things like this. She doesn't like her that much, and Mordecai should realize that Margaret is causing problems for their relationship. Why can't Mordecai stick with CJ, who most people agree is much better suited for him, and be happy? It's not hard to do, man. I know CJ isn't perfect, but most of this drama was caused by him being a fucking idiot. What pisses me off the most is how jarring and out of nowhere this whole thing is. A few episodes ago, Margaret admitted that she still had feelings for Mordecai, but that was it. CJ left and Mordecai actually did the right thing for once and immediately went after her. He didn't talk with Margaret, he didn't even hesitate either, which was pretty damn surprising, but either way, I'm not complaining there. What is annoying though is how this for some reason makes him think he has a chance with Margaret now? What, all of a sudden you want to get back together with her just because you find out she still has feelings for you? You already have a girlfriend. How much of a selfish asshole can you be? It'd be one thing if CJ got annoyed at Mordecai and told him she never wants to see Margaret again since she's caused them nothing but trouble. That'd make her less likable, but at least it'd redeem Mordecai for sticking up for his friend Margaret and wouldn't make me outright despise him here. If they really wanted to write CJ out of the show for whatever reason, then fine, go ahead and do it. But the way they did so was so stupid, jarring, poorly written, and unsatisfying. I don't know why they'd want to remove her. She's the best thing to come from seasons 5 and 6 besides Rigby and Eileen getting together, which gets confirmed here. Anyway, this sucks. Fuck you, Mordecai. Actually, wait, never mind. I realize he wanted to dump CJ so he could get with
Hey, Mordecai, do me a solid and get me a lemonade from the kitchen.
You think you want some chips with that cheese?
Oh, yeah, I guess we overdid it with the cheese, huh?
Mordecai gets to hang out with Margaret for once, but Rigby forces him to do a bunch of embarrassing solids for him. I remember seeing this a lot on TV back then, but it was always one I enjoyed the least. Rewatching this now though, yeah, this is pretty terrible, and that's mainly due to Rigby being somehow worse than he was in Walt Buddy. I seriously don't know what's wrong with him. Why does he have to make his best friend suffer like this? Also, what's his problem with Eileen too? I don't get why he hates her so much here. She's kind of awkward, but that's literally it. She's not fat, ugly, a piece of shit, or thinks Sonic Forces is the best Sonic game. In fact, she's by far best girl in the series, and I wish we got to see more of her. Anyway, I could see some people ranking this even lower, and maybe even as the worst episode, but there are some enjoyable moments sprinkled throughout it. While Rigby is a complete shithead here, some of the solids are admittedly sort of funny, like when he makes Mordecai take the blame for farting in the theater. This is pretty damn uncomfortable and cringy in a way that's sort of similar to Watamote. But the issue is that this is done in a mean-spirited way that makes me hate one of the main characters. The ending, as embarrassing and awful as it is though, is still a very memorable moment. I never knew what Mordecai was doing as a kid, so it was fun imagining what exactly he did. But now I know that he was acting like a dump truck since he took a dump on the ground in front of all of his friends, co-workers, and even boss too. I know most kids wouldn't even think of this, but even so, it's still crazy that this was implied in a show that's meant for children. As bad as this episode is, I'll give it brownie points for how absurd this final moment is. Also, more importantly, what is wrong with everyone for rewatching the recording of Mordecai taking a shit? Everyone except for Rigby was appalled by it, but now they're going out of their way to watch it? What kind of fucked up fetishes do these people have? That's disgusting!
Meow?
Mordecai and Rigby accidentally get Benson addicted to cat videos, but then they all get trapped in a green screen computer world and become cats. It's just as dumb as it sounds. Don't know why Benson is the one who's addicted to cat videos. Feels like this is something that would happen to Pops instead. The cat designs are very uncanny, although that might have been the point. The villain turns out to be a cat, which comes out of nowhere and confuses me a lot too. Mordecai is a bird, Rigby is a raccoon, yet most cats are apparently just regular animals here. The world of regular show isn't supposed to make a lot of sense, especially when most of the main cast are the only ones who aren't human. Then again, who knows? Maybe that's because regular show was actually just a big acid trip or something. Who the hickey knows?
I always come back.
You sure this is gonna work, reverse psychology horse? Wait. Oh.
Party Horse returns and asks Mordecai and Rigby to help him get back with his girlfriend. The first Party Horse episode was bad, so already this is a pretty, bad idea. The main reason why that and this sucks is because Party Horse is a really unlikable and annoying character. His whole thing is that he loves to party, and that's it. If you think that's hilarious, then maybe you'll like these episodes, but as for me, I think it's as funny as Jimmy Kimmel. To give the first Party Horse episode some credit, at least the premise was so batshit crazy that there was some enjoyment I could get from it. Mordecai and Rigby had to help Party Horse pass a US history test, even though he's from an entirely different planet, and if he failed, his principal would blow up the earth. That's a fun idea, but here it's just Party Horse trying to get back with his girlfriend. That's it. Also, you'll be hearing me complain about this multiple times, but the series reused a decent amount of ideas and plot lines during the show's run. Most of the time, this ended up creating a worse or outright bad episode, but at the bare minimum, they typically waited 2 seasons to do this. With Party Horse, though, they didn't even wait a full season to bring him back. Like, really? Did they run out of ideas this quickly? That's just sad.
Alright guys, welcome to Sex on a Plane prank.
Thomas becomes an intern at the park, everyone pranks him for a week, however after that Muscle Man continues to prank him and won't stop. The first minute is a montage of him getting pranked and it's actually pretty good, but that's the only part I enjoyed. Like I said, the rest of it is Muscle Man being a dick and pranking Thomas, which is annoying. The pranking episodes are probably my least favorite of the Muscle Man ones, and this is his worst unless you count the end of Muscle Man as one. The reason is because Muscle Man is basically bullying Thomas since he's an intern and can't do much about it. Yes, he can complain to Benson about it, but do you really think someone like an intern would have the balls to do that? Thomas sucks here. He takes everything from Muscle Man, and this was a super bad way to introduce him as a character. He's very generic, boring, and doesn't seem to have any flaws besides being a wimp. Apparently, JG Quintel added him so he could make jokes about interns, and yeah, there are some good jokes about him in the series, but seeing a character get shit on for a full episode like this isn't fun to watch. Hell, even Benson isn't likable here too. He says since Thomas hasn't complained to him personally, he doesn't see why he should yell at Muscle Man. Anyway, during the last act, it looks like Muscle Man killed Thomas, which, you know what, that would have been hilarious. After the previous episode with him saving the park and becoming an intern, everyone thought he'd become a new mainline character. However, the show pulls an M. Night Shyamalan and immediately kills him off in the next episode. Even if the rest of this episode sucked, if they actually went through with that all for the sake of a joke, I'd respect the hell out of it. But they didn't, which sort of sucks, although we did eventually get a few great Thomas episodes later on. Anyway, the only other redeeming aspect is seeing how much Mordecai and Rigby care for Thomas despite barely knowing him. That's nice, I guess.
Now, little Billies, this is not man 9.
Not sure if this is another hot take, but the 5th Terror Tales is the worst of them all. I already complained a lot about anthologies and why I don't like them here, but another reason why is because these are called Terror Tales. Because of that, shouldn't they be, you know, somewhat scary? I get that this is a kid show and all, so there's a big limit to what you can get away with, but even so, none of these are scary or at the bare minimum unsettling. I mentioned this in my Ed's video, but something that was so great about the horror episodes in them was how while they weren't scary, they were still creepy. Part of that was because of how great the sound design was there, but even then, the way they were written and directed were just so much better than these. It also helps that there were only like, what, 2 episodes along with the Halloween special, so they felt much more distinct and special. When you do this 6 times, it gets super old and loses the charm it originally had. Anyway, as for the actual tales, the first one is a complete rehash of the first Terror Tale since it's about Benson having a creepy doll which they have to kill since it's evil. It's one thing to do a Terror Tales every year, but if you're going to do so, then don't copy your own goddamn story. The second one has a werewolf turn Pops into a werewolf. It's better than the first one, but that's not saying much. Kinda felt like a rehash of Rigby turning into a skunk, but at least it was fun hearing Steve Blum as a werewolf. The next one has High Five at his girlfriend's apartment, which is the best out of the 4, although that's mainly because we rarely see High Five in the spotlight. It's not that bad, but it still feels like a missed opportunity. High Five is a ghost, so can't he not die since he's already dead? Wouldn't it make more sense if the stakes were about his girlfriend being attacked and dying since, you know, she's alive? The last one has Mordecai and Rigby get turned into chocolate by a witch. Feels sort of similar to when they got turned into pumpkins in the other Terror Tale, which again, shows how much and quickly they ran out of ideas here. At least seeing Mordecai get stuck in a machine that looked like it could have killed him was unexpected, but that's the most I got out of this. There's also this genie machine which shows people's wishes that Benson wanted to buy, and it turns out that everything we just saw never actually happened. That's a twist, I guess, and the genie is voiced by Steve Blum, so that's something too.
How you doing, Rex?
Mordecai and Rigby accidentally free an evil brain and now they have to capture it. This sounds like it would make for a decent episode since the villain is supposed to be an evil genius brain. He could outsmart everyone and be this huge threat since he knows everything, but instead this is basically a nothing burger. Mordecai plays chess against him, loses, but then captures him. That's it. I will say it's kind of funny how anticlimactic it is, but it also makes the episode super underwhelming and forgettable. The only other thing worth mentioning is that the brain is voiced by Rex from Toy Story. Wait, where is he from again?
Shut the fuck up! What I'm saying to you is the honest truth.
Pops thinks Benson doesn't trust Mordecai and Rigby, which he doesn't, so he makes them all work together to get to the bottom of a mountain. This feels like a rehash of Think Positive. However, instead of Pops being upset about Benson yelling at Mordecai and Rigby, it's over him not trusting them. The idea isn't bad, and it does help that Pops doesn't threaten to fire Benson, which seemed very out of character. However, there's one gigantic problem, which is how both Benson as well as Mordecai and Rigby are portrayed. The episode treats Benson as if he's wrong for not trusting them, which in this specific episode, he definitely is. Mordecai and Rigby are just trying to do their jobs, but Benson constantly jumps in and does it for them. This is very extreme for Benson. It's kind of dumb, and it makes him continuing to employ them seem like a waste since he's now doing their jobs. If someone has never seen the series before, they'd probably think Benson is a jerk for not trusting them, but the thing is, he has every right not to. How many times have they either slacked off, messed things up, or destroyed the park? Probably in over half the episodes by this point, so Benson not trusting them makes complete sense. However, all of a sudden, it just so happens that Mordecai and Rigby seem to be doing their job right, and now Benson is the one who's supposed to be wrong. Because of this, I end up hating Benson so much here, even though I should be siding with him. Besides that, the last act is also super unrealistic, which I know it's a regular show, but even so, this is just stupid. Benson is blind, carrying the weight of both Mordecai and Rigby, and is also somehow able to do anything they tell him. He does backflips, runs like crazy, and a bunch of other stuff, which means he must be fit as hell. Muscle Man and skips is one thing, but Benson is one scrawny motherfucker. There's no way I believe he can do all this.
Hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper.
Benson won't let Mordecai and Rigby eat the best burgers in the world since they didn't finish their work from last week. This is a problem since these burgers are only available today and won't be back for another century. Benson is a complete asshole here. I know Mordecai and Rigby didn't finish their work, but this is a special occasion that's once in a lifetime. Also not for nothing, but shouldn't he have fired them for not finishing any of their jobs from a week ago? Guess it's because no one else would want to do their jobs, or maybe he's just really nice. Well, actually no, he's not, because he eats both of their burgers right in front of them, which honestly feels way worse than firing them. Either way, he's very unlikable. Why couldn't he just let them eat a burger for like 20 minutes during their lunch break and then make them go back to work? All he had to do was say if you don't finish all your jobs by the end of the day, then you're fired. It's not that complicated. Mordecai and Rigby also fight hologram versions of themselves, which isn't that interesting. Maybe if they were clones instead of glass, that'd be cool, but as is, they suck, and so does this episode.
You will have sex with your mother.
Rigby switches his fortune with Benson, which gives him good luck and makes Benson have Rigby's bad luck. Benson all of a sudden having good luck and Rigby having bad luck is awfully convenient. It's basically a Benson torture corn, and Rigby is sort of unlikable too. I get that it's not fair for Benson to suffer like this, but at the same time, why is Rigby suddenly super unlucky? It's extremely predictable. Of course something crazy is going to happen because Rigby abused the power of the fortune cookie, and it results with him and Benson switching their luck back. There's also a giant warlock which comes out of nowhere, which wasn't built up at all, although I guess that could just be a result of Benson's bad luck. We also find out the Muscle Man switched Rigby's fortune, so he's an asshole for doing that.
That's not how it be. That's how that fucking book works.
Mordecai and Rigby have to get a new stomach for the Death Kwon Do teacher sandwich making guy. This is probably going to be another hot take, but I did not care for this at all. The Death Kwon Do dude was a silly one-off character in Death Punchies, and they brought him back in the Sandwich of Death, which was alright. He didn't need to come back, but they explored his backstory, showed where he trained, and fleshed out his character a bit. This, however, is very similar to that episode, mainly because it feels like it's doing the same thing again. Someone gets sick and is going to die. They get help from a Death Kwon Do guy, go to a temple, and fight one of them in the last act. There is a twist with the assistant being evil, but he wasn't interesting or funny enough for me to care, and the same goes for the rest of the episode. The Death Kwon Do guy is alright, but the joke surrounding him gets old, which is why he works so much better in Death Punchies. I can understand if people like this one, but for me, it was more or less an unnecessary boring rehash.
Alright guys, welcome to Sex on a Big Mouth.
Muscle Man stops pranking everyone after hurting Pops, and apparently this is a bad thing. That's because as soon as he stops, we get a lore dump explaining how Muscle Man's pranks save the park since they're at war with another park that's it's run by a guy named Jin. And of course, since Muscle Man stopped pranking, Jin decides to immediately start another war. The main problem is that Jin and the rival park come out of nowhere, which makes it very difficult to care for them and the entire war in general. Their introduction is so quick and jarring, and they should have been revealed or at least mentioned in a previous episode. Even if this wasn't the first episode that introduced them, this still wouldn't be good, but at least it'd be more tolerable. One minor change that would be a notable improvement would be for Muscle Man to prank some random dude in the park instead of Pops. He ends up hurting them, which makes him want to quit pranking. However, it turns out that the person he pranked was secretly someone sent by Jin. This was all set up by him. The guy wasn't even hurt, but this is what causes Jin to get the upper hand on the park. It removes how convenient Jin showing up is and makes him more of an unlikable antagonist, plus it's a much stronger introduction too. Anyway, the whole pranking thing is boring, especially since it's so obvious that Muscle Man is going to come back, start pranking again, and save the day. Admittedly, his prank sending Jin into the sun was cool, but that's the only highlight here.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Muscle Man and Starla see another one of Makoto Shinkai's shitty romance films, and Starla wants them to be apart for an entire weekend to prove how much they love each other. This is considered one of the worst by a decent amount of fans, I think, and yeah, it's pretty bad. Right away, the idea is super stupid. If both of them love each other, they should see each other. That's just common sense. What makes this worse is that later on, Starla complains that Muscle Man hasn't tried calling or texting her. Like, what the fuck? You literally told him that you'd break up with him if he did so why would he do that? She also complains that he should know when she's being serious and when she's not, which pisses me off. If you realize that this is stupid, then why don't you call him yourself and tell him the challenge is over? Why does Muscle Man have to be the one to call you when he believes that you're going to break up with him if he does? Also, I'm just saying, if this was me, this would be pretty easy because I'm very stubborn and can distract myself easily. Not for nothing, but it's only 2 days, and more importantly, you have High Five, Mordecai, Rigby, and probably Skips who can hang out with you for the entire time. You guys could do guys night, but instead of it being one night, it's the whole weekend. Eat wings, play video games, crash some stuff in the crash pit, and have a good time. It's not that hard. Anyway, the ending is pretty weird, even for regular show standards, since Muscle Man and Starla howl at each other, which somehow gives them powers. It's regular show, so it's not that big of an issue, but something I haven't seen anyone mention is how Margaret and Eileen are somehow holding back Starla. She was literally destroying the entire town in her first episode, but Margaret and goddamn Eileen are strong enough to maintain her? Yeah, I don't buy it. This episode is stupid and frustrating. It makes me dislike Starla here. It's
Nightmare, 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 nightmare.
Pops is having a nightmare about an alien, but eventually gets over his fear and stops him. This is another one that I didn't care for at all. It takes way too long for something interesting to happen, which is the fight itself. Everything before it is just Pops having nightmares about the alien. That's it. The Scooby-Doo parody was sort of alright, I guess, and more importantly, we see Anti-Pops for the first time at the end. It feels like that's the only reason this episode exists, which is to introduce him, although they definitely could have done so in a much better and less boring way.
Did you put pizza all over this house? Don't deny it. I saw you. I saw you put pizza all over this house.
For some reason, Mordecai and Rigby are throwing pizza pouches at the house. They try cleaning it, but fuck up and now have to repaint the entire house. I get that the two of them are stupid, but by season 5, don't you think they should have learned not to do insanely stupid things like this? Anyway, Rigby is pretty lazy and unlikable. He's the reason why they need to repaint the house. He lies by saying he'll do it all by himself, but then pays someone to do it for him. Of course he messes up again. It results in the house being camouflaged, and eventually it's going to be blown up too. That's the big final act. The house doesn't blow up, but instead Benson's car does, because fuck him, I guess. Feels like they could have done more with this concept. Rigby is unlikable, it's kind of boring, just a very typical bad episode. Mordecai and Rigby rent the best VHS in the world. They lose it, but then find out Keemstar stole it and has been watching it inside their house. This takes way too long for the plot to actually start and go somewhere interesting. Keemstar doesn't show up until about halfway through, and even then, not a whole lot really happens. He threatens to destroy the tape, but then gets convinced not to, and that's it. Just like the last one, it's a nothing episode that's sort of boring and unfunny.
Let me handle this. In your face!
I've had 67...
There's a country club that takes Mordecai and Rigby's cart, so they sneak in and try to get it back. The setting is a bit different, although most of it is generic. The villains are just a bunch of snobby rich Turks. There's a big fight at the end which lasts too long and isn't interesting. The owner of the club turns random things into toilets and sends them into space, but then it gets turned into one and goes to space instead, which, okay. This could have been a 3 out of 10 instead, but there's its ending, which is surprisingly solid. I thought it was going to end with them getting the cart back, but it resulted in the park getting destroyed, which made Benson yell at them. But no, Benson briefly says that he's proud of Mordecai and Rigby for sticking up for themselves and taking back what's theirs. It's literally just 5 seconds, but even then, it's rare to see Benson say something nice like this to them, so at least I'll give the episode that.
I'm the trash man.
After 7 seasons, Rigby finally gets an actual bed, throws his trampoline out, but then misses it, so he goes to the dump to get it back. I like how after all this time, we get a plotline about Rigby still sleeping on his trampoline, and I love how comedically large his new bed is. Also, why did Rigby continue sleeping on his trampoline when he knew Mordecai was hugging his mattress the entire time? Anyway, the premise isn't bad, but unfortunately the rest of it is pretty boring and unfunny. They're at the dump looking for Rigby's trampoline, that's it. Why would Rigby even want it after it's been here? Wouldn't it smell like shit? Also, it ends with him getting his trampoline back, which is kind of underwhelming and disappointing. Season 7 had Rigby go back to high school and finally graduate, which is very significant since it showed how much he grew over the series. I originally thought him getting rid of his trampoline would resemble him throwing away his old dickhead lazy self. But no, that didn't happen, and instead what we got was him taking back his shitty old trampoline, which sucks because I'm sure Eileen would have loved to share that bed with him.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini.
Coming through! Pops, no! Whoa.
Mordecai and Rigby paint the garage door to look like the inside of it. Pops accidentally smashes into it, so then they all have to go to Home Depot to buy a new door. It's pretty similar to the last one in that the beginning is actually fun, but once I get to where they need to, I sort of lose interest and get bored quickly. Home Depot isn't that fun of a setting, especially for a full episode, and none of the challenges they did were anything special. Pops is here with them, plus a knight from Excellent, although just like the Death Kwon Do guy, he loses a lot of his charm here. What made these characters good and memorable were that they were quick, simple gags that didn't overstay their welcome. Giving them a much bigger role isn't inherently bad, but again, it takes away part of their appeal. There's also a guy who's just a garage door and gets stuck underneath the garage door at the end, so, that was funny, I guess.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Mordecai and Rigby accidentally break CJ's tent, so they try to earn enough money to replace it. This is very simple. There's not a whole lot to say besides it being kind of boring, plus they both have to survive Starla and her sister in a mud ring for 5 minutes. For some reason, they decided to make the actual match last nearly 5 minutes of the episode's runtime, which makes the scene overstay its welcome. Once they win, they get their money, meet CJ and Eileen at the camping site, and the episode's over, so that kind of sucks. I know I've been and will continue to complain about the series rehashing ideas, but I actually wouldn't have minded if the series reused the camping plotline but redo it with CJ. That episode was mainly about Mordecai trying to bond with Margaret, however this could be done differently since he and CJ are already in a relationship. Not sure what they could have done, but I'm sure it would have been more interesting than this.
The numbers, Mason. What do they mean?
Mordecai and Rigby make a bet with Margaret and Eileen that if they can get a girl's number by the end of the day, then the girls will pay for their dinner. This is considered one of the weakest from the first few seasons, and that's mainly due to how slice of life and, regular it is. Seasons 5 through 7 got less extreme and felt like a normal sitcom half the time, but for season 3, this sticks out a lot. The craziest thing that happens here is them driving Pops' car in the sky while being chased by some assholes. It's not awful or anything, it's just kind of boring and doesn't feel much like regular show, especially since again, this is in season 3. I don't mind the more slice of life episodes, especially if it involves Eileen, Margaret, or CJ, but the premise is too bare bones and uninteresting.
He's got this. What's going on here?
Breakfast!
Mordecai and Rigby help Party Horse study for his US history exam, and if he fails, then his principal will blow up the earth. Like I said before, the premise is so over the top and great, but Party Horse sucks as a character. He's way too simple, dislikable, and super annoying since all he wants to do is party all the goddamn time. He doesn't even learn anything at the end either. He might have tricked the principal into saving the earth, which was sorta funny, but he still sucks.
Happy birthday!
Mordecai and Rigby enter a contest to come up with a new happy birthday song. They win, and that's it. The happy birthday song being annoying wasn't that funny, and that's the whole joke of the episode, so if you remove that, there's not much to enjoy here. You don't get to hear their song until towards the end, which did keep me somewhat invested, but not by a lot. The happy birthday monster was pretty forgettable and non-threatening. It's yet another contest that's also a rehash from the Thanksgiving episode. It's not good. After getting launched into space, a group of robots come and pretend to help everyone out, although guess what? It turns out they're actually evil pieces of shiitake mushrooms. It's super predictable. Of course the robots are going to be evil, and for some reason Mordecai and Rigby are the only ones who are suspicious of them. You'd think someone smart like Eileen or someone who's been around for a long time like Skips would be more skeptical, but no, they aren't. Their designs are shit. We get introduced to some new characters towards the end, which none of them are any good either. The fight is lame. It's bad. Check, please.
Alright guys, Welcome to Sex on a
Fuck you!
Up your ass! Up your ass!
Muscle Man pranks the captain's rival space station team, and that's literally it. I know I've already said this, but I'm not a big fan of the pranking episodes, especially when this is in the last season. It also doesn't help how bare bones it is since it's just a pranking episode, but in space. The prank is more elaborate than anything else we've seen before, but it's hard to care when it's so obvious that Muscle Man's plan is going to work out. It would have been interesting if he failed and learned that while he's a great prankster, there are others out there who are better than him. But no, Muscle Man has to win, which is expected, although it is sort of funny seeing him moon everyone. The space captain thinks Rigby is endangering the other members, so he makes him hang out with a tree who teaches him about safety. This is the final season, and for some reason we get an episode about Rigby being mentored again, which they already did in Muscle Mentor, and that wasn't even good. This isn't a complete rehash since it's more about his mentor being a psychopath instead of Rigby learning how to do something. But even so, it's annoying to see this after Rigby finally graduated high school. Wasn't the whole point of that to show how much he's developed over the series? But I guess not, since we needed another episode where he gets taught and scolded. The space tree guy is kind of annoying, although this moment is pretty damn funny. Also, when Rigby is taking the test, the space tree reads out some of the questions to him and someone helps him out during it, which shouldn't that count as cheating? I don't know and I don't care, especially since I've still got like 200 episodes to go over. Terror Tales 3 is one of the more interesting Terror Tales since half of it isn't too bad, but the other is unfortunately super boring. The first tale has Rigby get a new bed, although it turns out it's been possessed by a murderer. The bed is about to kill Rigby, but Benson agrees to give him a job at the park just to quickly have everyone kill him. It's actually pretty decent and funny, and if the rest were just as alright as this, it would be ranked much higher. The next one has a pumpkin turn everyone else into pumpkins and then smashes them. It's easily one of the better Terror Tales, but it's not as great as people say it is. It is one of the creepier ones, but it's hard to appreciate it when the first Terror Tale did this, but in a much better way. That had everyone die in unique and sometimes genuinely gruesome ways, but here they turn into pumpkins and get smashed. That sounds kind of cool, but the thing is, the pumpkin planted their seeds so they grow back months later. That takes away a lot of the creepy vibes this had, which is mainly why I don't think it's all that great. Anyway, the first two weren't half bad, but the last one... it sucks so much, especially since it's the longest. About a century ago or something, there's a pilgrim who acted like a dude from the 80s, and he stored his soul in the park's house, I think. He then comes back and scares everyone while he's constantly using slang from the 80s. The first one or two jokes were sort of funny, I guess, but after that, the joke got super old. It's not scary whatsoever, so because of that, I was bored out of my mind. Terror Tales 2 is about the same as the third one, although a bit more consistent. The first one has Mordecai's uncle die in both a funny and gruesome way. He then haunts Mordecai for a bit, but it's just to give him back the $5 he owed him. It's average, it's short, but it's completely watchable, and the same goes for the next one. Mordecai, Rigby, Margaret, and Eileen go on a party bus, although it quickly turns them old and almost kills them. They then put the bus in reverse, which makes them younger, however that ends up killing them instead. Might be a hot take, but this is easily one of the better Terror Tales and the best from this batch. The idea of quickly turning old and dying is pretty unsettling, although they definitely could have done more with this. I feel like this could have been pretty solid if it were longer and we see them grow older at a slower pace. Seeing them gradually turn from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 every minute or so sounds really dark and grim. Also, dying because they aged in reverse before they were born holds us back as well. It's not nearly as terrifying as dying of old age. Anyway, just like the third Terror Tales, the final one is by far the worst, mainly because it's the longest, but also because it's just not interesting. Mordecai and Rigby hire a guy to put new wallpaper up in the house, but then it turns out he's a giant enemy spider who also kills them.
Wait, what?
The wallpaper design looks cool and both of them dying was unexpected, but it's such a letdown compared to the final Terror Tale in the first one. That's by far the best Terror Tale, and a decent part was due to seeing everyone die in a gruesome way. Here they just blow up immediately, which yeah, that's funny, but there's no build up to it, plus it isn't scary too. I might be a lot harsher on this despite it only being the second Terror Tale, but that's because it was such a downgrade. Right away, the concept of doing another Terror Tale again after just one season feels kind of redundant. Part of the charm of the original was how unique of a premise it was for the series, so to see them do it again so quickly kind of annoyed me. They do have a different plot here, which is for everyone to go to a party, although once they get there, they die, and that's it.
I'm a fire in my laser!
The gang want to watch a Laserdisc movie again, but they end up fighting in a war against a physical media machine cult thingy. again. The first Laserdisc episode was alright and enjoyable, but this feels like it was made solely off of concept alone. It's like, oh, we had Laserdisc fight against VHS, so this time let's have them stop DVDs. Like, yeah, I guess it makes sense, but it feels like nearly the exact same episode again, except this time Benson is here too. The whole joke of how absurd this is gets old quickly, and it still develops into an all-out brawl between a bunch of random people that I don't care about. If you find the concept and jokes really funny, then I can get why you'd love it, but at the same time, the first one already did this, but in a better way.
Bitch!
The sixth and final Terror Tales is sort of similar to 2 and 3 since half of it sucks, but the other half is perfectly watchable. The first tale has everyone crash land on a planet to get gas, however the planet shows them all their greatest fears. The idea isn't bad, although it's mainly played for laughs, and the only one I found remotely funny was Skips being afraid of flying disc freestyler since it's so random. Not one of the worst Terror Tales, unlike the next one which has everyone go into a castle and run away from vampires. It's pretty boring, and it's made even worse. It's not for nothing, but you guys are in space and can do literally anything. This could have been a regular house on Earth, and it feels like a scrap Terror Tale from the previous ones because of how bland it is. Also, like I said, since they're in space, that irritates me more than the other Terror Tales since now they can do almost anything they want. We could have an actual holiday special plot like the first Christmas one, but no, it's just another typical Terror Tale, which is frustrating. It also doesn't help how unnecessary and fillerish this is since it takes place between multiple important plot-driven episodes. The only reason they made this was because it's a yearly tradition and not because they had great tales to tell that took advantage of having space as the setting. Now that's what I would have said if it weren't for the final tale, which surprisingly is by far the best one and is also pretty decent too. The park needs money, so they let an alien stay here and pay rent, although it turns out she's an annoying piece of shit and everyone hates her. They let her stay for a good while solely because she has a bunch of money, but eventually they don't care and try to kick her out. It's such a simple premise, but what makes it so enjoyable is how real this feels, along with a tenant being an alien that barely talks too. The joke works really well, the chase sequence is fun, and it uses the setting of space to its advantage. It's easily one of the best Terror Tales, and if it wasn't for this, Terror Tale 6 would be ranked lower and might actually be the worst one. I don't care for the other two here, especially the second one, but this prevents me from outright hating this episode. Also, High Five dresses up as E.T. and Eileen is Samus, so that's hashtag awesome sauce.
Hey bro, watch your jet. Watch your jet, bro. Watch your jet!
Mordecai, Rigby, and Eileen go to a party at Margaret's house. However, Mordecai is a loser and tries to avoid her the entire time. This is basically the exact same episode as Merry Christmas Mordecai, where he tries to avoid Margaret at a Christmas party since he's too scared to talk to her. That was only 10 episodes ago too, but there's one big difference here, which is the ending. Instead of Mordecai kissing Margaret, he ends up just talking to her and having a normal conversation. So congratulations, Mordecai. You finally grew a pair, hit puberty, and... oh wait, never mind. We can't have a happy ending because CJ sees them talking, misunderstands everything, and nearly kills them. It's CJ's worst moment. It feels so forced and dumb, and this is especially irritating since Mordecai didn't do anything wrong here. Like, yeah, he was a dick to Margaret before, but he was just trying to prevent himself from being horny and swapping spit with her again. Some people hate this episode because of how badly CJ messed up, which yeah, that's pretty awful, but in some way I like seeing CJ mess up since it shows that she isn't flawless. This should have been done in a much better and less stupid way, and oh wait, it already was done in her first episode, so yeah.
I'm cheating.
Mordecai and CJ go to a Christmas party, but Mordecai is a stupid baka and can't enjoy himself because Margaret is there. Like I said, it's very similar to the last one where Mordecai is miserable for most of it, especially at the end where he accidentally kisses Margaret. This is easily one of the worst things he's done. How the hell do you accidentally kiss a girl when you're already dating someone? It'd be one thing if he ate a bunch of wings and got drunk, but he didn't. This was just him being a fucking idiot. What's also annoying is that of course this happens during the few minutes when CJ is busy in the bathroom. Like, really, Mordecai? You can't control yourself for 5 minutes? Also, not for nothing, but you dated Margaret for what, only a month and haven't seen her in like a year or something? You've been with CJ for like 3 times as long as that, so shouldn't you be over Margaret and be happy with her? This is so stupid. It's literally dumber than Rent a Girlfriend, but not in a good way. Fuck you, Mordecai. CJ deserved someone a lot better. The only good highlight is that Rigby kisses Eileen, so yay, that made me happy. Pops threatens to fire Benson if he continues to yell at Mordecai and Rigby, so he tries to calm down and not get angry. Oh boy, I've seen people shit on this and even put it as one of their worst episodes, which I'll admit this is not good. This is mean-spirited as well as a Benson torture corn, however it's not entirely shit since there are aspects that I do enjoy. The idea itself is worth exploring since Benson does yell a lot, and while it's usually warranted, it still creates a bad work environment for everyone else. I think one big reason why I'm less harsh on this is because of how relatable this is for me. My manager got fired literally a few weeks before watching this, who's basically exactly like Benson. He wasn't a bad dude, he rarely ever pissed me off personally, but every day at work he'd yell or be in a shitty mood. That created an unhealthy environment, even if half of the other employees like me who did our jobs right knew he wasn't directing his anger towards us. Either way, I enjoy the concept, even if it wasn't executed in a good way. We get a flashback showing Benson's family constantly yelling, which is why he ended up the way he did. It's an important moment and I wish we got more of it here, or if not, then at least in another episode. Benson eventually yells at Mordecai and Rigby, and holy shit, this might be his best performance in the show. His mental breakdown and busted car is fantastic, but this is insanely impressive too. Also, not for nothing, but his actor lost his voice, got a migraine, and I'm not entirely sure about this, but also might have passed out after recording too. That's cool and all, but unfortunately everything I just mentioned doesn't make up for how poor some of the writing here is. Pops being mad at Benson for yelling at Mordecai and Rigby seems fine on paper, but for him to threaten firing Benson is way too extreme. Benson is a good park manager. It's not his fault Mordecai and Rigby continually fuck up or slack off all the time. More importantly, why does Pops blatantly ignore Mordecai and Rigby's mistakes and put all the blame on Benson? This is especially frustrating when they seem to be notably more stupid and lazy here, which is pretty forced. Also, I know Pops is higher up than Benson since his dad is Benson's boss, but even so, when has he ever had this authority over him? He's never threatened to fire, let alone punish anyone for doing their jobs wrong before. I kind of like how despite being much more naive than Benson, Pops is a higher figure than him, but I feel like this could have been shown in previous episodes before this. Giving Pops authority out of nowhere like this, especially when it's as extreme as firing someone, seems kind of dumb and forced. But yeah, this is a bad episode. Not one of the absolute worst. There's aspects I like, but I can't ignore how significant some of its shortcomings are.
That's not the worm. Pardon? That's not the
Mordecai and Rigby are stuck on a worm who's super annoying. This is the worst of the 15 shorts. The worm is annoying, although that's the entire point. Thankfully, nearly all of these shorts are only 2 minutes long, so at least it's super quick.
You need to shut up!
Mordecai and Rigby make a super duper cool basketball shot, then scream "oh" for like a minute straight. It's kind of annoying, although they supposedly die for screaming for too long, which would have been a funny way to end it. But of course they don't and continue screaming it. I can see people liking this a lot more, but again, it's kind of annoying.
What's going on here?
Breakfast!
Mordecai and Rigby sneak out to interview the band Piss, however, because they did so, Benson is going to get fired. It's a pretty generic plot line. It feels like something that's been done in other shows before, and it's not that unique or interesting for me to care all that much. Like I said, they sneak out to interview the band, which doesn't seem that important and makes me dislike Mordecai and Rigby for putting Benson's job on the line. It'd be one thing if this was like Fist Pump, where the band performs a concert for a special occasion, but no, it's just an interview. The only highlight is Benson yelling at the scientists for trying to fire Mordecai and Rigby, but besides that, it's super forgettable.
It's no use! I'm also gonna need you to vacuum the carpet. Mostly this spot right here.
Mordecai and Rigby street perform to get money for a new video game, but a silver dude keeps stealing their audience. It's another not offensive, but still bland episode, and the battle against the silver dude at the end feels like a blatant ripoff of the one against Tyler the Creator. The silver dude doesn't die, but instead he gets turned into a mime, so that's something, I guess. The god of street performing is a fine side character, but he doesn't show up until the last couple minutes, and even then he doesn't do that much.
Maybe it's the way you're dressed.
Mordecai, Rigby, and High Five accidentally destroy Muscle Man shirts, so they have to find and replace it with a new one. I believe this is the only episode where High Five is barely with Muscle Man, plus I like how he's the one who destroyed his shirt. He's always been one of the most normal characters, so it's different to see him mess up for once. There's a Muscle Man knitting monster that looks visually distinct, and Mordecai drives a Jeep, and that's cool because Jeeps are cool. There's some aspects to appreciate here, but overall it's mainly forgettable and average.
Go nuts.
Mordecai and Rigby enter a competition on Carter and Briggs' show where they do a bunch of donuts in the cart. It's another competition episode. It feels nearly identical to every other one. It ends with them doing donuts in a space vortex, which sounds cool, but it was hinted at earlier on, plus by this point the show's formula was getting kind of stale too. At least after they win, we get to see them on Carter and Briggs' show.
Crime is like a lizard's tail. It always grows back?
Thomas gets a super duper bad brain freeze, so Mordecai and Rigby have to go inside his head and unfreeze him. This is one of the rare Thomas episodes, and unfortunately, like the first one, it's not good, but at least this one is watchable. Thomas barely does anything, which is a bit disappointing and underwhelming since this is supposed to be an episode about him. Looking back, shouldn't Mordecai and Rigby have found out about Thomas being a Russian spy since they went inside his head? I guess Thomas is just that skilled that he can hide his true self even inside his own head. Also, it'd be funny if Mordecai and Rigby failed and Thomas was frozen forever, thus ruining Russia's plan. Anyway, they rip off the coffee bean guy with the freeze monster, which is lazy and unfunny. I don't like it.
Welcome to our club! Welcome to our club!
Benson hangs out with Jin in order to join his park manager's secret club. However, everyone else thinks it's just a prank bro and rescues Benson. It's super predictable. Of course, it turns out that Jin actually was willing to let Benson join the club, and it was all a big misunderstanding. I mean, seriously, did you guys really think Jin was going to murder Benson? He's an asshole, but not a murderer. The ending is at least somewhat satisfying, with Benson joining the club and being happy. It could have been a great moment if the rest of the episode wasn't so stupid, but at least it's better than him being miserable and not joining, I guess. Benson mistakenly fires Muscle Man because he thinks he graffitied the park, so Mordecai and Rigby have to find the actual culprit. This plot is pretty forced. Muscle Man gets fired for the dumbest reason. He has chicken wing sauce all over him, and for some reason his spray can drops out of his shirt, which seems awfully convenient. Also, even if Muscle Man was lying, shouldn't he have gotten written up instead? Mordecai and Rigby have done much worse than this, and they still never got fired. Maybe it's because Benson expects more from Muscle Man since he's been here longer, but either way, we all know he's going to get his job back by the end. Muscle Man also tries becoming a comedian, and for some reason, everyone suddenly hates his My Mom jokes, even though everyone loved them in the episode My Mom. Guess it's only because those people were Muscle Man's friends and liked his sense of humor. Anyway, the villain is just a giant spray can, which is alright. There's some cool visuals later on, but besides that, it's forgettable. Big mouth. Mordecai, Rigby, Muscle Man, and High Five want to eat a sandwich. However, it's for VIP members only, so they try to become members. It's yet another food episode. I don't know how many times we've done a plot like this where the characters want to eat something but go through all this effort just to do so. It's nothing special, although I will appreciate how they reused both Cheezers and the astronauts but did something different with them. At the end, we find out that none of this ever happened and it was just Rigby making it all up, so that makes us feel even more pointless and forgettable. Anyway, they play Taking Care of Business during the montage, which is weird since they already used it in Tent Trouble. This is the only time a real-life song was reused in the series, so I'm guessing they still had the rights to the song, or it was cheap enough to reuse again. Or who knows, maybe the staff really likes this song for whatever reason, even though something like Breaking Benjamin is way better.
I'd hate to cause a rift between such good friends.
Mordecai and Margaret hang out, and by the end of the night, they finally decide to continue staying friends. This is a big mixed bag, because part of me sort of likes it, but the other is very frustrated too. It's mature to see Mordecai and Rigby talk about how they're still young and don't know what their futures are going to be like. Deciding not to date, even though they'd end up living a happy life, is sort of respectful, but again, also irritating too. This is the end of Mordecai and Margaret's relationship, which has been a thing very early on in the series. They flirted, kissed, dated, broke up, kissed again, and even ended up ruining Mordecai's second relationship. So to see it all end like this is frustrating and disappointing, even if it means we finally get closure on them. Since CJ is gone and you both know you like each other, shouldn't you guys get back together? I get that it's a bit awkward, which I guess is why they don't, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. I both like but also don't like this. I can go back and forth over this for like 10 minutes, but I don't feel like ranting and I still have a shit ton of episodes left. Check, please. The gang get brought to the space station where they find out that staying in space is part of a test for them and Benson is the only one who doesn't want to stay. Apparently everyone could just go back to Earth now, which is fucking stupid. That completely ruins the whole aspect of them being trapped in space. Also, not for nothing, but this is the third episode of the season and they couldn't even keep that plot going longer than that. What makes this worse is that suddenly everyone is now okay with staying in space, which is very out of character. I get that they're told it's for the sake of a mission or test or something, but why is Benson the only sane one here? Looking back, this is even worse for Muscle Man because in the finale, we see that he pulled a Goku and slept with Starla right before he left. You have a kid that's going to be born in the coming months. Wouldn't you want to be there for Starla and your kid? What would have fixed this would be to introduce anti-pops during this time, since it would have given a good reason for everyone to stay in space despite being able to go back. Being there for your wife and kid when they're born is important, but saving the entire universe is sadly more important. I get why they waited until the second half to properly introduce him, but that resulted in the first half feeling like a waste of time, especially with how poor a lot of those episodes are. The only highlight is seeing Benson go back to Earth and regretting not staying in space, which is a good moment. It's pretty obvious it's a simulation, especially with how long it goes on for, but still, it's not bad.
He made me experience high tide!
Pops wants to surf so he can become one with nature, but it's hard for him to do so because his head is so goddamn big. I don't care that much about Pops trying to surf, although it is neat seeing how stubborn and motivated he is. It's also different seeing an episode solely centered on Pops without Mordecai and Rigby, or at least before the last 2 seasons, that is. I can see people liking this more, but there wasn't a whole lot that kept me invested, although I will say this made me laugh my ass off.
Peachy says anybody can catch a wave with enough practice.
Yeah. Peachy's dead.
Fucking jump! Jump!
Mordecai and Rigby's high school reunion is coming up, and Rigby wants to prove how cool he is by taking a picture of himself skydiving while eating a burrito. The premise is dumb enough, but the rest of it is pretty average. Feels like another one where it was made based on the idea alone. The ending is annoying too, since it turns out it wasn't their reunion, but instead it was Pops's. That means Rigby went through all this effort, almost died, and somehow survived this crash for absolutely nothing. If this had Rigby get cheered on by all his classmates for being so cool, then I could see this ranked a bit higher, but as it is, it's whatever.
The problem is I don't see any saddle. I mean, this is the saddle.
Skips is lonely and wants to start dating, so his friends help him out, and later on Rigby goes on a dating show with him. This premise is very basic and could be done in other shows, but for Skips it makes sense since he's been alive for almost 200 years. That being said, the placement of this is really bad since this comes 10 episodes after Skips' story. That showed Skips' backstory and how he still loved his first crush even after all these years. So to see this so soon after that feels sort of like a middle finger to it. Skips also goes on a trip with a girl, but it doesn't work out, meaning all of this was for nothing, especially since he's still single at the end of the series.
What do you want to do? Oh, we can't do that. It's more civilized time now.
Mordecai and Rigby unfreeze a caveman and make him more civil, although it doesn't work out and he freezes himself again at the end. This doesn't feel like a regular show episode that much since it's a plot that's been done in numerous other shows by this point. The most irregular thing that happens is when a bunch of the other cavemen get unfrozen and attack the park, but again, for regular show standards, that's nothing. The ending where the caveman freezes everyone was cool, I guess. No pun intended.
I got the Lewis shoes dirty, goddamn!
Mordecai and Rigby want hover boots, so they take on a scientist's request and find her husband in a giant plant that she made. It's a very basic premise, but being in the inside of a plant is a unique setting. The scientists are somewhat enjoyable, and I like how they both decide to live inside the plant instead of killing it. Not much to say though, it's got some fun moments, but overall it's pretty standard.
I baked you a pie.
Mordecai and Rigby are judges at a pie eating contest, however they're too scared to fairly judge everyone's pies and lie about how good they are. There's a pie monster at the end that grows super big because of Mordecai and Rigby lying, I think, and he shrinks every time they tell the truth. It reminds me a lot of that bad Powerpuff Girls episode where that white monster grew by lying and could only be stopped by telling the truth. Thankfully, unlike that episode, the pie dies in a funny way. I understand that Mordecai and Rigby don't want to upset people by telling them that their pies suck, but the thing is they don't have to tell them how awful they actually are. They get the idea to give everyone's pies a 10, that way everyone wins, which is so stupid and frustrating. If you didn't want to make people sad, then why not give everyone like an 8 out of 10, but have Pops be the only one who gets a 10. That way everyone thinks their pies don't suck, and there's a clear winner making everyone happy. Muscle Man is a dumbass and loses most of his money by investing in ant farms, so the only way for him to afford his and Starla's wedding is by winning on a game show. Don't know why Muscle Man was dumb enough to invest his money like this. I figured he'd be broke because he kept having to pay for property damage after breaking a ton of stuff. Anyway, it's another competition episode, except this time it's with Muscle Man and Starla, both of which aren't that exciting to watch for a full episode. At least the ending is funny since the winners get disqualified for being Canadians, meaning Muscle Man and Starla win. That's such a stupid way for them to win, but you know what? I like it.
Like you could, G.
Rigby cheats on a bet with Mordecai, and since he lost, he goes blonde and joins a cult of blondes. The joke is kind of funny for a bit, but after that, it's a pretty typical episode with Rigby being forced to realize he was wrong for lying and cheating. The blonde cult is sort of forgettable, although they are extremely racist, so, that's something, I guess. Mordecai makes a bet that if he can kiss Margaret by the end of the week, then Muscle Man has to wear a diaper. It's another one that gets held back because of how predictable it is. Of course, making a bet about kissing Margaret is a bad idea, since she's going to find out and get mad. The fake out kiss at the end was sort of funny and caught me off guard. It would have made me enjoy this more, but despite wearing a diaper, Mordecai is happy since he believes Margaret still doesn't hate him. This doesn't sit well with me. Mordecai is such a wimpy loser. I mean, come on, man. You lost a bet and are wearing a diaper. How the hell are you happy right now, asshole? By the way, way, this might not have happened if you also weren't an idiot for taking like 50 breath mints for no reason. Jesus Christian Weston Chandler, how are you this insanely stupid? You only need at most like 2 or 3 and you'll be fine, you stupid moron baka.
Sure. So sign.
I'd rather sign.
Mordecai and Rigby have to sit at Maillard's mansion and sign a package for him. They somehow managed to fail the simple task once and almost twice too, which is really frustrating. I get that Mordecai and Rigby are incompetent, but this makes me dislike them for how much they slack off and can't even do this one thing right. The reason they missed a driver the first time was because they wanted to get sandwiches, which were right outside Maillard's mansion. All you had to do was have one of you guys go get the sandwiches while the other waited outside at the front door. The UPS driver is also extremely accurate. He flew out of there instantly, which I can confirm we do that all the time. You think we're going to wait for someone to come and sign their package? That's a pain in the ass, and we've got almost 200 other stops to do in a day. Anyway, seeing Mallard's mansion again is neat, and there's a short scene where Mordecai talks to Rigby about how he wonders if they can better themselves. They've been stuck at the park for years, and it feels like they aren't trying their hardest. It's a great moment since Mordecai starts thinking about his future, but unfortunately it's only a minute long. If the rest of the episode focused on this, it could have been one of the best from the season, but it didn't, so overall it's average.
Hey, this guy's a great big phony!
Ace's body was never found. Could Ace be alive and walking among us?
Mordecai and Rigby think a knight living at the park is actually an old rock band legend that has amnesia, so they transform him into a singer. I like how they took this random one-off side character and made an episode about him. It seems like a pretty bad idea, but it ends up being watchable, even if still sort of forgettable. I at least like how the knight wasn't actually the singer, since the ghost of the real one comes and shits on him. But then the knight starts smashing everything, which makes the ghost like him since he's a better smasher than him, which was kind of funny.
Gotta scream first, bro.
But we're not scared.
Do you want the candy or not?
Despite being the 4th entry, Terror Tales 4 is surprisingly one of the better ones. There's 2 reasons why, with the first being the plot, since while everyone is telling stories, they're on their way to see Muscleman's mom. This is season 6, and we still haven't seen her by this point, so it was exciting to see what she looks like. It turns out she's just a normal, or I guess normal for muscle people standards, which is kinda funny. I appreciate how we actually got to see her, and it wasn't all built up for nothing. This would have easily been ranked alongside the other handful of Terror Tales solely because of that alone. Anyway, the other reason why this is slightly better is because of how consistent the tales are. None of them are good, but at least all of them are at the bare minimum watchable. The first one has everyone sacrifice Pops to a hole in the ground, although since his head is too big, he gets stuck. They did the same to High Five the year before, and I wish we got to see that instead of it just being explained to us. It would have been unsettling seeing him jump in the hole, or seeing everyone struggle to kill their friend, even though he's already dead. The second one has Benson fire Mordecai and Rigby's ghost, which sounds like a solid premise, although it ends up feeling like a missed opportunity. Benson struggles to fire them, and that's mainly due to him being too scared of their ghosts. Since this was the case, why couldn't he just quickly shout "you're fired" and have it end there instead of hesitating the entire time? There is a twist, which is that no one is actually fired until their names are removed from the computer, which I did like. However, as I said, this feels like a big missed opportunity, and that's because this could have been about Benson struggling to fire them since they're his friends. Instead of being scared, Benson doesn't want to fire them since he grew attached to them so much over the years and doesn't want them to go. He knows he has to, but it's still difficult for him to say 2 simple words, which seems like a much deeper and interesting premise. What we got still wasn't bad, but again, it feels sort of like a waste of a good premise. The last one has Mordecai, Rigby, CJ, and Eileen go into a horror movie starring 3 villains. The different locations and characters keep it somewhat engaging, and this definitely wouldn't have been nearly as good if it was just one killer from one movie. There's some alright moments, but overall this, as well as the episode as a whole, is watchable, but still not one I'd go out of my way to watch.
She replaced all of us, didn't she?
Hey, wanna see my phone?
Mordecai and Rigby get replaced by 2 new employees, so they try to get them fired. This is a really neat idea, showing how Benson finally had enough of them screwing up, so he replaces them with normal people. That being said, in execution, it's very underwhelming, and part of that is due to this being only 11 minutes. Mordecai and Rigby sabotage them for 2 minutes, then they get into a fight, and that's basically it. If this was 22 minutes, I'm sure they could have made the plot more in depth and fleshed out the new employees too. This is especially so since they don't even get fired here, or at least not for longer than a full minute. Wouldn't it make more sense if the plot was them getting fired in the beginning and then they try getting rehired? That sounds much more exciting and interesting. What we got wasn't bad, but still, it's very underutilized.
I'm buff!
Talk about a double-edged sword.
Oh, he's going behind the head for the hand clasp. I think he's gonna do it! I think he's...
Muscle Man enters a bodybuilding competition even though he's very out of shape. I like how one day Muscle Man was at the gym and suddenly got super buff while lifting. He looks uncanny while buff, but I also like how there's now a reason he's nicknamed Muscle Man. Besides that though, it's a competition episode and it's one of the weaker ones since it's so generic. Muscle Man manages to do well since his technique is great even though he's clearly very out of shape. But the way he manages to win is underwhelming because all he does is a deadly technique that killed one person before. He saw a video of the guy failing, he says that's easy, and he somehow does it on his first try. That's insanely unrealistic, especially since again, he's been out of shape for years, so that's kind of insulting to everyone else who practices all day every day.
Because I'm fat, fat, fat.
Muscle Man quits and gets a new job as a gut model for a pregnant woman magazine. It's a funny concept, although it's obvious Muscle Man isn't going to stick with it. Seeing him think about his future and having a mental breakdown over his friends not stopping him is easily the highlight. High Five can turn himself into a bubble and trap people, which is weird since I believe this never gets used or seen again. There's some good moments, but overall it's pretty average and predictable. Mordecai and Rigby prank Muscle Man by giving him a fake lottery ticket, however they struggle to tell him that it's fake since they believe he's going to kill them. It goes almost exactly how you think it's going to go. Mordecai and Rigby try to tell him the truth but get scared, rinse, and repeat. Seeing Muscle Man fight over 100 lottery ticket employees was not where I thought the episode would lead to, but I kind of liked it. Muscle Man getting pranked and even enjoying it was sort of satisfying and surprising, but still, it's overall a run-of-the-mill episode. Mordecai and Rigby rap about all the countries in the world. It's fine, although I have nothing to say about it. I guess it'd be funny if they tried going to North or South Korea but couldn't get in, but sadly that didn't happen.
Stop the animation! Our biggest fan needs our help! It's time to make a very important episode.
Eileen asks Mordecai, Rigby, and CJ to help her film and edit a video for her film class, but they end up taking over the project and ruining Eileen's vision. This is the first Eileen-centered episode, and unfortunately it's pretty underwhelming and not that enjoyable. Mordecai and Rigby doing their own thing is a bit annoying, but at the same time, Eileen is the one who asked for their help. I get that the lesson is for her to be honest and speak up for herself, but again, you're the one who asked them to help since you're not that familiar with film. The ending is surprising, but it's also a mixed bag too, with Eileen deciding to make the video she wanted from the beginning. Despite not having a good 80s song, the visuals are great, the animation is impressive, and she manages to get an A on it. Thought it was going to end with her being out of time, so she used the video Mordecai and Rigby made and got a good grade due to how avant-garde and creative it was. But no, she somehow records the entire video in one shot, edits it with all these special effects, exports it, and is able to make it to class on time within the span of an hour. As an editor, I am deeply offended with how inaccurate this is. Something like this would take days at least. Maybe it's because I don't really use special effects myself, but even so, a video like this could not be made in this short of time. Fuck this episode, man. Mordecai and Rigby get lost in the woods after getting tortillas from the store and have to make their way back to the campsite. This takes too long to start since by the time they get lost, the episode is already halfway done. Even then, it's obvious that they're nearby and that they've only been gone for a few hours. This is one of the rare times where I'd say Mordecai and Rigby are in the right and Benson is wrong. He wants to make tortillas instead of burgers, which wow, Pop should have fired him on the spot for that. Not only that, but he made everyone waste their time waiting for Mordecai and Rigby to come back when he already had backup burgers the entire time. Why were you so stubborn about this? Just make the goddamn burgers. Tortillas suck massive dick. Anyway, the montage of them after eating the tree bark is the highlight, but that's really the only good part. Mordecai and Rigby rap against robots. It's fine for what it is, although it would have been neat to see them get Tyler the Creator again. If they couldn't get him, then maybe instead they could have gotten just a robot, but he's crazy, so I get why they didn't.
You are fake news.
Margaret tries to get her own segment on the news, but one of her co-workers keeps sabotaging her by giving her false leads on stories. This is the only Margaret episode where she's the one and only main character, and it's watchable, although still forgettable. It's kind of repetitive seeing her go somewhere just to find out that the info she got was fake. The last act does raise us up from a potentially bad episode since it's pretty decent. We find out that the evil co-worker is a robot from the future and wants to ruin news or something, and it ends with her blowing up. It's actually one of the better car chases in the show, and that's mainly due to this being aired on live TV. Everyone is watching this and you get to see all of their reactions, which makes this feel more important and intense.
The pizza is aggressive.
Mordecai and Rigby want to eat their pizza pouches, but they're too cold, so they think eating it while skydiving will make it hotter. They basically just reuse the plot from the skydiving burrito episode, but it works a bit better here since it's only a short. Also, how the hell did those pizza pouches not blow up but the microwave did? That's some Illuminati type bullshit.
Training mode.
Whoa! Congratulations!
Rigby complains that Benson never taught him how to do his job right, so Muscle Man trains him, and if he fails, then he gets fired. It's kind of nice to see Rigby be forced to try so hard for once and do his job, since a lot of the time he's either lazy or screws up. The stakes are high, but it's hard to be nervous when, again, we all know Rigby isn't actually going to get fired in the end. Benson is also crazy for almost letting not only Rigby, but also Muscle Man drown and die. If that happened, then he'd get fired, and the park would be short 3 employees, all because Benson is a goddamn psychopath.
I got a brand new saxophone.
So, did it work?
You disgust me.
After kissing Margaret at the Christmas party, Mordecai tries to get back together with CJ. The first 2 minutes are pretty solid, with Mordecai having a normal conversation with CJ, but after that, it's him failing to get back together with her. There's multiple misunderstandings that happen, and it's pretty stupid. There's this one part where he pretends to be hit by a car and dies, which, holy shit, this might actually be worse than him kissing Margaret. There's another part where Mordecai meets up with Margaret, and they hug, and of course it happens right when CJ is driving by, which is awfully convenient. Fuck you, Margaret. None of this would have happened if you didn't come back, you dumb bird. The last act is nice, with Mordecai even ending up in the hospital, but the rest of it is very cringy and frustrating. Muscle Man is having a party, but Mordecai and Rigby are the only ones who aren't invited, so they get turned into ghosts and sneak in. Them turning into ghosts is sort of cool, although they don't do a whole lot with it besides thinking they killed Muscle Man. But oh no, they didn't actually kill him since it's just a prank, bro. Wow, what is wrong with you? Faking your death like that isn't cool, bro. Who are you, Sam Pepper? He might be an asshole, but at the same time, it's kind of cool seeing how elaborate and crazy this plan was, all for the sake of a prank. The only reason Muscle Man pranks him is to get back at Rigby for accidentally spilling soda on him, which is insane. There's something seriously wrong with Muscle Man. It was 2 accidents in a row. It's not like Rigby was being a jerk and did it on purpose. Muscle Man also bailed High Five's brother out of jail, which doesn't make any sense. He's a ghost, so shouldn't he be able to just phase through the walls? Also, I like how he used to be a prisoner, but then ended up being a cop himself. But yeah, it's pretty average, especially for one that's as early as season 2.
Just bought this new Lamborghini here.
Mordecai and Rigby ruin Maillard's limo by eating meatball subs in it, so they go to a limousine derby to win him a new one. The derby is fine, I guess. It's not too exciting, but it also isn't boring either. There's a T-Rex limousine monster, which I'm pretty sure The Simpsons already did that, but then again, they ripped off Treehouse of Horror, so who cares at this point? The ending also has Maillard ruin the new limo, so, yeah.
You know what it sounds like to hear yourself explode? Twice?
Mordecai and Rigby go to court for bothering a bunch of ear people by making loud noises in a store. Did not expect this to be a court case episode, but I'm not complaining since it's not that bad. The highlight is briefly seeing some of their past enemies shit talk them, but besides that, it's nothing special. Mordecai and Rigby ruin their sleep schedule after watching a marathon all night long, so they go and do a space race. I like how relatable this is. The race at the end is alright, but it mainly reminds me a lot of the Coffee Bean episode. I get that this is different enough, but they're still tired, can't do their work, and even drink coffee too, which somehow doesn't work. I thought they were going to bring the Coffee Bean guy back, but they didn't, and I don't know if I should be happy or sad about that. Anyway, I can definitely see others ranking this higher. It's far from bad, but again, I didn't care for it that much.
I'm stuck!
The gang has to return a VHS to the store, but it's stuck in the VHS player. It's yet another very simple premise, although the episode isn't entertaining enough to make up for its bare bones plot. It's kind of slow, feels like not a whole lot happens, although we find out there's a dude who's obsessed with Mordecai's mom, which was funny. There's also a bounty hunter who chases after them, but dies. Mordecai and Rigby find Pops' tetherball trophy, so they play tetherball, and that's it. This sounds boring, but the directing is super unique here. Half of the shots are of characters facing forward, which is weird, because some of them weren't designed with these shots in mind. Kind of reminds me of when Phineas faces forward, which, ew, that's nasty. Get that off the screen.
Someone say this.
How is this supposed to help me get the ladies?
They got you a lady.
That's not a lady.
Mordecai uses cologne that attracts a bunch of dickhead unicorns who hang out with him. This is widely regarded to be the weakest season 1 episode, and yeah, it's not good, but I don't think it's as bad as some people say it is. The unicorns are extremely one-dimensional and unlikable, but that's sort of the whole point. You're supposed to hate them. It's predictable, with Rigby learning how big of jerks they are, and him realizing this happens way too quickly. That being said, there are fun moments, especially with how anticlimactic its ending is. They quote-unquote race the unicorns, although the only thing that happens is them blowing them up.
You two morons had better get this mess cleaned up, or you'll wish it was you driving that car!
The unicorn one?
They also do some weird shit like eating Benson's balls as well as...
What the fuck? Did someone say there's dude time down here?
Also, I have a meme on my PC where instead of him saying did someone say there's due time, he says something else. I'm not gonna repeat what that is because I don't want to get demonetized or potentially get my channel deleted.
Amish Mafia, series premiere, Wednesday, December 12th at 9.
Everyone goes to another dome which went through a time vortex and everyone except for one person there is a pilgrim. It's not a bad idea, but the whole time I was just wondering what the point of it was. It's basically filler since all we find out is that they need to go someplace else, which is already their goal before this, so that's annoying. If you ignore that though, it's watchable. The villain is alright too since he's just a loser who's now smarter than everyone else. It's another one where I can see people liking this more than me, but I don't know, I didn't care that much for it.
Why did you leave me?
After getting dumped by Margaret, Mordecai drives all the way to her college just to give her back a sweater she left behind. This is very important for Mordecai since he gets over Margaret, although he is unbearable to watch at times. He drives like 20 fucking hours just to give her back a sweater she probably doesn't even remember wearing. He also sniffs her sweater and more importantly is a dick to Rigby who's trying to help him get over her. As bad as Mordecai is here, Rigby does make up for it by showing how good of a friend he can be at times. He might be a lazy asshole, but at least he's trying to help Mordecai move on with his life. We learn that Mordecai never truly got over Margaret when she comes back, but I feel like if she never returned, he'd fully have gotten over her and stuck with CJ. That doesn't ruin this episode at all, which if it did, this would be notably lower since it'd feel like a waste of time. Anyway, there's also a vegan protest at Margaret's college because why the hickey not? Mordecai and Rigby want to go to another fist pump concert, although they get stuck in an elevator. It feels like a mix of portable toilet in the first fist pump episode since they're stuck in one small space and also want to go to the exact same concert again. There definitely are some highlights such as them talking about how they miss home, although sadly this makes up only a small part of the runtime. If most of the episode was just them talking about their future while being stuck here, this could have been one of the season's best. There are some massive problems with the last season, but the characters being stuck in space and getting homesick was barely explored for some reason. That sucks because as a concept, that sounds really interesting, and I hate how they ditched this in only the third episode. Anyway, Mordecai gives up on leaving the elevator, but Rigby doesn't and gets them out. This is a solid moment for him, showing how much he developed over time. After finally graduating from high school, he's much more motivated to finish what he started, unlike Mordecai, who's still a college dropout. We also get to see Fist Pump, which is satisfying, considering this is a payoff from one of the very first episodes. So yeah, there are good moments here, but the episode still mainly feels similar to others in some way, and is also a bit of a wasted opportunity too.
Water, ice, salt,
The gang go into a cave so Pops can watch a VHS explaining that he has to save the universe. It seems like a very important episode, which it is, although the problem is that you have to wait for the last couple minutes to get the big exposition dump. Everything else before this is mostly the gang trying to get to the location with multiple characters dying who I don't care for at all. There's some decent moments, but for the most part it's kind of boring and I'm just waiting to get to the last couple minutes, which are really damn good. We find out how Maillard isn't Pops' real father and that he actually came from space. Also, apparently Pops has to fight his brother Anti-Pops in order to prevent the universe from being destroyed, so that's cool too. I can see people rating this a bit higher, but the last couple minutes can't carry this by that much.
Denied.
He's gotta go.
You're the reject.
What is going on here?
Mordecai and Rigby have to meet Margaret and Eileen inside a club, but they struggle to get in because their clothes aren't cool enough. Mordecai tries calling Margaret, but for some reason Eileen tells her not to look at her phone because, then we wouldn't have a plot. That's pretty stupid, and this might be one of the only times Eileen did something that kind of irritates me. Lady Gaga's the villain. She doesn't do a whole lot, although I like how her outfit is made of garbage and it probably smells like shit. The ending is nice with Mordecai and Margaret dancing with each other, but it doesn't make up for the rest of it being a bit miserable.
That's why you're my cookie wookie teddy bear.
Muscle Man wants a radio station to play a song he made for Starla, but he finds out it's now run by an AI machine, so they all go and destroy it. I did not expect the episode to escalate into that, but it manages to work decently well. We hear Muscle Man's song at the end, which sucks dick, but more importantly, this happens. Okay, seriously, how the hell did they get away with this? Anyway, we must be like, what, over an hour in at this point, and we're now finally getting to the episodes that I'd say are overall okay and worth watching at least once. Don't think that's a good thing, considering how many mediocre and kind of shitty episodes there were, but either way, I've still got a bunch left to talk about.
Guess who's back?
Maillard thinks continuing to pay for the park is a waste of money, so everyone has to come up with a way to get more people to show up. I like the idea of the park being shut down, but Maillard being concerned about spending money seems a bit out of character. This is the same person who got his limo dirty and casually said he'd just buy a new one. I get that the park is decently big and that probably costs more money, but even so, he's a billionaire, so I don't see what the deal is. They show a park meter, and when I saw it, I figured they'd trick Maillard into thinking a bunch of people came in and used it. I thought they'd spin it around a lot and make it go over 9,000 or something, making Maillard think a lot of people came to the park over the last week. But no, that doesn't get used at all, and instead Huge Head from the wrestling episode returns after 4 goddamn seasons just to get his head stuck in a vortex. They didn't need to bring this character back, but it works well because of how underwhelming and little he gets used here. I love how canonically he's been waiting in the bushes for 4 years. That's so stupid, but I like it.
Coming soon to own on video and DVD.
Mordecai and Rigby impersonate a cool narrator guy. Yeah, that's it. Nothing else to say about this except that this unintentionally pissed me off because the preview for it on my PC showed the Adventure Time logo. I thought that meant this would be some kind of cool crossover or something, but no, it wasn't and only showed up for like a second.
Mom!
Mordecai introduces CJ to his parents, but he believes his mom is going to embarrass him, so he acts like a dick waffle. Mordecai's mom is great, his dad is alright too, and it's nice seeing Mordecai's house. Unfortunately, Mordecai kind of sucks here, but he learns a very important lesson, which is not to be an asshole.
Cause it's my movie, my movie.
What's going on here?
The regular show movie has Mordecai and Rigby travel back in time to when they were in high school in order to save the universe. Before doing this video, I kind of forgot there was even a movie, and that's probably because no one ever talks about it. And after watching it, yeah, I definitely see why that is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just...
Okay.
My main problem is the premise, since like I said, it's about Mordecai and Rigby traveling back in time, which has been done multiple times already. They went back and prank callers and Bad Kiss, their future selves already traveled back to meet them, plus Skips did this too. I'm not entirely opposed to the idea of traveling back in time, but it doesn't feel as significant as it should be when they've already done it before. The stakes being that they need to save the universe is also an issue, since they're so unbelievably high that I struggle to believe there's a chance that they'll end up failing. Also, since the regular show's whole thing is showing off how crazy the scenarios can get for the characters, it makes this plot seem less impactful. The end of the universe is supposed to be this giant event, but for regular show standards, it doesn't seem like that big of a step up from other episodes. The stakes are still high, and I guess the film is supposed to be more about Mordecai and Rigby staying friends, which I do like. The opening scene reveals that Mordecai turned evil, works for the villain, and more importantly hasn't been friends with Rigby in years. That's a pretty interesting concept, although unfortunately we barely get to see these versions of Mordecai and Rigby. Future Rigby gets only a few minutes of screen time and then dies. Meanwhile, evil Mordecai doesn't show up again until the last 20 minutes. I'm sort of fine with Rigby dying early on, since it does raise the stakes, mainly because we see one of the main characters die even if they're from a different timeline. But evil Mordecai could have been such a threatening and interesting villain, and it sucks that he's so underutilized. I wouldn't be complaining about this, but another one of the film's problems is its villain, Mr. Ross, and he's kind of... Ross is Mordecai and Rigby's volleyball coach and science teacher, and he wants to get revenge on Rigby for making his team lose the state championship. This made him go crazy and somehow escalated into him wanting to destroy the entire universe. That's kind of funny, but when that's all there is to his character, I just don't care for him. I don't find him interesting or even threatening after a few minutes. Like, I get it. Regular show has a lot of silly and simple villains, and for the most part, they work. But the reason they work is because they're only a focus for like a few minutes and are usually in just one episode. They're simple, and that's because they have so little screen time, since nearly every episode is only 11 minutes. Taking a villain as basic as this and using them for a full hour movie doesn't work the same, since they get so much more screen time. Ross's whole motivation is all a joke, which, like I said, it's kind of funny, but that's all there is to his character. He's an insane teacher who wants revenge on his student for a stupid reason. He'd probably work well in a regular episode, but not a full hour movie. His plan also doesn't make much sense either, since he makes Mordecai and Rigby finish the time machine for him. Why does he need them to work on it? Can't he just finish it on his own? Guess it's to make Mordecai and Rigby ruin their friendship, but even then, it's sort of confusing. Also, more importantly, how the hell are Mordecai and Rigby smart enough to finish a fucking time machine by themselves?
Because I know something that you don't. What's that? Always guard your pepperonis.
Anyway, while I still overall enjoy the movie, I feel like something else would have been notably better. For example, this could have been an origin story showing how they met, or maybe remove the time travel aspect and have the main characters be just their high school selves. This takes place entirely in the past, and we see them go on their first crazy adventure together in high school. If neither of those, then they should have made Exit 9B the movie, or at the bare minimum, a 45-minute special. Yes, it would be a shit ton of fan service, but that episode could have definitely worked as a full hour movie. The story needed to be fleshed out, the villains needed more to do besides just making cameos, but the plot was more than strong enough to work for a film. Also, this takes place in between season 6 and 7, or sometime around the beginning of season 7. That's what I've heard, but you can watch this pretty much any time during season 5 and before the season 7 finale. Eileen barely says anything to them, so her and Rigby dating can be left up to interpretation. Margaret could either be in college or at work, and CJ isn't here because she's busy, or this takes place after she dumped Mordecai. It's neat that you can sort of watch this whenever you want and not be forced to stop the show at a certain season or episode. But at the same time, that's also kind of an issue too, since it doesn't add much or change anything in the series. There's nothing impactful or important here besides finding out that the main reason Mordecai and Rigby are friends is because Rigby is a lying asshole. So later on it's revealed that Rigby didn't make it into college, however Mordecai did, meaning that he'd go and leave Rigby all alone. Rigby then forges a rejection letter for Mordecai, which makes him think that he actually got rejected. This is a pretty strong scene, although you have to ignore how unbelievable it is that Rigby could forge a rejection letter super quickly and make it look legitimate too. Rigby has done some awful things, but this is pretty damn terrible. He single-handedly changed Mordecai's life and lived this whole time without ever telling him. As bad as this is though, I understand where he's coming from. He's been alone for most of his life, his dad doesn't like him, he lives in his brother's shadow, and his only friend is Mordecai. Without him, he'd be alone and have nothing left to look forward to in the near future. While I don't agree with what he did, I don't hate him for doing this. Also, shortly after this, he finally tells Mordecai the truth and reads his rejection letter in front of everyone, which is probably the best scene in the film. It's a full minute of Rigby reading his letter, you see everyone's reactions, and of course this makes Mordecai realize that he's been lied to this entire time. It's a very powerful scene, but unfortunately this is the most we get from the movie. Besides finding out that Mordecai and Rigby's friendship over the last 6 years or so has stemmed from a lie, what else does this movie really add? We see their high school, which is in season 7, but you can watch those episodes without needing to watch this. The most they mention is that there's a bully who becomes Rigby's substitute teacher for one episode, but again, that episode works on its own. We were hinted at the movie during Skips in Time where we see Mordecai and Rigby look through the portal, but even then, they don't show that scene. I thought Mordecai and Rigby would stick their heads in a portal after they made the time machine and they'd show footage from the episode, but no, we get nothing. If I were to compare this to another Cartoon Network film, it would easily be Trouble in Tokyo. Both are basically extra fillers that only have one somewhat important moment or reveal. Robin and Starfire kissing, as well as this reveal, are neat, even though again, they aren't entirely necessary. Speaking of other Cartoon Network movies, in comparison, this is pretty disappointing and underwhelming. For example, look at Operation Zero, which had huge reveals, an amazing villain, every single scene was great, and the movie had impacts on the later seasons too. Big Picture Show is basically a perfect Ed, Edd and Eddy movie. It put the characters in new settings, the world was expanded, it felt like a big adventure, it's the best thing to come from the series, plus it's the finale. Even the Powerpuff Girls movie was great and super memorable too. Yes, it's just an origin story, but at least the animation and art style was much higher quality than the main series, plus it had a notably darker tone, which I loved. The regular show movie, besides a couple moments, feels more like an extended 45-minute special. The animation may be better, but it still looks exactly like the main series. Anyway, I know I've been complaining a lot, but I still think the movie is fine. There's just enough decent moments and ideas where I can say it's worth watching once, but I don't see myself checking this out again. Mordecai and Rigby order a giant-ass sandwich and distract themselves by telling stories. It's kinda sad that this managed to be a better anthology than nearly every other one, although I'm sure this is going to be a very hot take. The first flashback shows Rigby's dad forcing Mordecai and Rigby to eat a bunch of cereal. This could be considered a retcon from the Thanksgiving episode where Rigby's dad was much nicer. However, you could make an argument that since this is a flashback, he could have acted like this only in the past and eventually became nicer. The next one has them fail eating a pizza, and because of that, the pizza man steals their TV and game console. Both of these are fun, and one big reason is because these are real flashbacks and aren't just made up stories. That's also why the last story is by far the worst and isn't even good, because it's just a bunch of random nonsense. Mordecai and Rigby are astronauts and fight a giant sandwich. Great. Why the hell should I care? It's like one of the writers said, hey, the first two stories were too realistic, so we need to make up for it by having the last one be super weird. I know fans complain that the second half is too slice of life compared to the first, and yes, to an extent I do agree with that. However, some of the more typical slice of life moments can be be really good if done right, such as in this episode. Anyway, why was Benson dumb enough to actually go through and buy them the sandwich that cost over $80? Shouldn't he have called them and said, yeah, no, I'm not paying that much, you guys, get something else? I don't know, but either way, they finished the sandwich and didn't get fired, so yay.
Hi, how are you?
You know who else is up to protocol? My monitor!
Muscle Man thinks everyone, or I guess mainly Benson, is being unfair and giving him all the hard labor jobs since he's the strongest. Don't know why Muscle Man is so bothered by this. I get labor is tough, but wasn't he super buff before? Also, why is Benson suddenly giving only him the hard jobs? Isn't Skips actually stronger than him? For some reason, Benson doesn't get in trouble for doing this, and it's more so about Muscle Man getting smarter and working at an office job. Originally, I thought this was going to be a copy of the Smart Patrick episode from SpongeBob, where Mitch gets so smart that he loses Starla since it becomes a lot different. But no, instead it's about him and everyone else stopping a group of evil robots and destroying their office, which I guess fits for a regular show.
Normally they say ninja gay.
Mordecai and Rigby try to sneak out by acting like ninjas. I was wondering how they didn't get caught due to their reflections on the TV, but then Benson said he saw them because of that as they're leaving. That's funny, and they're stupid for not just cleaning their room, which looks
disgusting! These nuts!
Mordecai and Rigby lose Benson's car keys in one of the scientist labs, so they go in to get them. This might be one of the quickest starts to any episode, since the plot and goal is already established within the first minute. It's different seeing the scientists help them out for once, and this might just have the best title in the entire series, because
these nuts. Got him!
Lord Moldy Butt!
The park becomes a medieval fair for a day, and since Pops is naive, he thinks he traveled back in time. I'm not a huge fan of medieval-themed episodes, but the unique setting was neat, and the cast being forced to be in character, otherwise the customers get a refund, is funny. While dumb, this was also a decent way to prevent Pops from finding out that he isn't in the past, since no one can break character to tell him. That solely makes this notably more enjoyable than it would have otherwise, since that's the entire stakes. If this aspect was removed, this probably would have gone from a 6 all the way down to like a 4 out of 10, which is crazy to think about. Muscle Man has a bald spot and he thinks Starla will hate him. For some reason, this is one of the lowest rated episodes on IMDb, which I don't really get. A lot of the lowest rated ones are Muscle Man episodes, but even so, this one is fine. Yes, it's predictable. Of course, Starla isn't going to dump him, but it's still kind of nice to see Muscle Man care and worry about his relationship like this. Also, he flexes his tits for half the episode and everyone gets so distracted by them that it's all they can look at. That's weird as hell, but you know what? I like it.
I hope you saved room for dessert!
Mordecai and Rigby help a literal TV star escape since he hates his job and wants freedom. Half of it is sort of just one big car chase. It's fine for what it is, but even as early as season 4, this was getting kind of stale already. The ending was surprising though, since it turns out the TV isn't alive and it's actually just an old dude living in it who I thought was also going to die.
I'm not dead. I was just resting. Level out, come on!
Yeah, woohoo!
Mordecai, Rigby, Muscle Man, and High Five try to get their stuntman's license so they can perform for Timmy's birthday party. He turns 10 years old, however they show him having his birthdays here since he was born and Mordecai and Rigby were already there. That doesn't make sense, since that would mean they'd have been working here for 10 years even though it's only been like 4 by this point. Regular show's timeline already doesn't make sense, but I'm not going to get sidetracked and rant about that. Anyway, it's a basic training episode, not too much to say, although I didn't expect Muscle Man and Rigby to both get their licenses. I thought either everyone would get theirs or just one would. I guess Rigby can now make fun of Mordecai for having a stuntman license despite not having a high school diploma, but he never does that.
Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, and Orion's breakfast.
Pops wants to see his favorite planet, but struggles to do so for numerous reasons. The flashbacks are pretty cool, but I feel like this was mainly made to establish that Pops has powers and not much more than that. Also, fuck off. I just said I wasn't going to rant about the timeline, but it makes no sense here. Pops' planet shows up once every 25 years, and the first time we see it is in the 1900s, then the 50s, followed by sometime in the 80s. This means the show would take place anywhere between 2005 and 2014, since they don't specify exactly what years the planet showed up at. I'm assuming this takes place in 2010 when the series first aired, which would make sense since Eileen gets a flat screen TV in an earlier episode. However, they only show retro consoles and not modern ones, although that could be because Mordecai and Rigby can't afford any of the newer ones. I don't know. I really don't want to get distracted and start ranting, but either way, this episode is
okay.
Congratulations, you won.
Pops, you're my lucky charm. You're not going anywhere.
Pops wants to go on a game show but gets lost and accidentally becomes the CEO of a TV station. This is a very weird episode, although I appreciate how they took the plot of a game show but did something completely different here. Normally game show episodes are just the characters competing on a show, but this time we don't even get to see the show at all. It's very bizarre and I couldn't tell exactly what direction or where the episode was heading in, but I don't mean that in the bad way. Pops also almost dies after becoming the owner of the company, and it ends with him tricking the employees and escaping. I can see people liking this notably more since there are some solid aspects, but overall it's just alright. Mordecai accidentally leaves Benson's camera in a car that they drove into the crash pit, so they have to go down and get it. It's cool finally seeing what's at the bottom of the crash pit, but what they did with it wasn't that great. There's a group of people who live here and have no entertainment, which is why they get mad and try to attack everyone for taking back Benson's camera. Then again, with how great Rigby's laugh is, I see why they'd want it back so much.
Grubhub Perks give you deals on the food you love.
The gang wants to eat a special burrito, however they can't get it since they don't have a car with doors on it, which is pretty stupid. Why don't they just go inside, order the burrito, and eat it there? Wouldn't that make more sense? Maybe there is no place to sit and eat inside, but either way, this is such a stupid rule. It's like the restaurant doesn't want people to buy their food and give them money. Muscle Man also can't use his car because that's conveniently broken down, so that's kinda dumb. This doesn't sound that good, but what saves it is how stupid the villain is. He's a criminal from 40 years ago that survived by living in his car and eating all the scraps the cops left behind. He's so weak that he can't even beat up Rigby, which is refreshing to see since a majority of the villains are usually decently threatening.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
The gang go to the Parky Awards where they hand out trophies to all the managers, however Benson loses them all and Jin wins yet again. An award contest is something different, although it's pretty obvious Benson wasn't going to win any of them. Eventually there's a part where the ghosts of the dead managers come, which wasn't that interesting, although the ending makes up for this. Everyone makes Benson a trophy and he gives a speech thanking them for being good friends, which is pretty good.
Welcome! Punch!
Mordecai and Rigby wake up in Australia and they have to get back home, otherwise they're fired. The setting is unique, but isn't this sort of a rehash of Gold Watch where Benson woke up in a faraway place and had to make his way back to the park? It's different enough, I guess, plus the villain is pretty good since it's some loser who lost to the Prime Minister and wants to punch him. There's a montage that has some cool visuals, but unfortunately there isn't a killer 80s or 90s track that plays during it.
Hey Benson! Can we get a break?
Mordecai asks Benson to take a break and he responds by breakdancing for like 40 seconds. I like how it turns out that he was only able to do this because he let the ghost of some breakdancer possess him. That's oddly specific, but okay.
Nightmare, 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 nightmare.
Muscle Man keeps beating everyone up in his sleep, so everyone helps him and finds out that he's having nightmares about these Chaozu motherfuckers that kill you when they hug you. It's kind of funny, although it's very weird that we got this right after the last episode, which was also a Muscle Man one.
They played all 8 seasons. 257 episodes.
This aired in 2013, and it's disturbing how accurate they were with this line. They were off by literally just a few episodes.
Happy birthday!
Rigby gets help from a random dude, and they make Mordecai a video game for his birthday. The inside of the game was cool, and I like how they went through all that effort just for the game to be extremely simple and short. There's also a bunch of bugs in it at first because of how dumb Rigby is, which was #funny. The only nitpick is that there's a minute-long montage, which is basically filler since it adds nothing, plus it doesn't have a catchy song either.
Where is my super suit?
Makes my butt look a bit flat, though. Nice.
Benson gets a suit, he fights some bad guys who want the suit, and then he destroys it. The fight is alright, although nothing special except for this part.
No take!
I like how everyone starts respecting Benson a lot more, especially Mordecai and Rigby, and that's only because he's wearing a nice suit. Not a whole lot to say. I guess the intro is unique since the first 2 minutes are spent with none of the main characters, but that's about it.
What the heck is going on?
Let's go!
Muscle Man almost dies, but Death agrees to let him live if Mordecai and Rigby babysit his son. What the hell even is Thomas? He looks nothing like Death or his wife. Maybe this isn't his wife's kid and Death got some other girl pregnant? Who knows? But either way, he fucking dies.
Huh?
This is a typical babysitting episode, but it does have that regular show flair that keeps it interesting, especially when Thomas has a demonic voice. Also, they hint at Muscle Man dying at a hot dog contest, which gets used in the following season, so that's neat.
The Book of Sega Genesis.
Benson doesn't appreciate Mordecai and Rigby, so they write a bunch of lies in the book of the park's records, but of course everything they wrote ends up coming true. Even for an early episode, it's super predictable. As soon as Benson mistakes Mordecai and Rigby for making pancakes, you know exactly what's going to happen. Don't know why they didn't write in any of their wishes, like getting rich, Margaret starting to date Mordecai, or anything else like that. It's not like the book got destroyed either, so Benson could use it now that he knows what it's capable of. Also, they never brought Skips to the hospital, even though they wrote it down. Just pointing that out.
Rules are for fools, rules are for fools. Save your stupid ruling for fools that need some schooling.
Mordecai and Rigby are tired of Benson's rules, so they try to live life without them. Just like the last one, it's very predictable. Of course, life without rules can't work, otherwise everywhere would be like California. At least them going to a world without rules wasn't as expected, plus we even see the unicorns return too. There's also an old Mordecai, but no Rigby, meaning he died, so that's pretty sad and unexpected. Also, fuck his old self for not telling Mordecai to forget about Margaret and get with CJ. Actually, wait, never mind. That's right, he should have told him to move to Ponyville and get hitched with Twilight. Anyway, the ending kind of feels like a rehash of But I Have a Receipt, where they make up their own rules and use that against a villain, but besides that, it's fine. Mordecai and Rigby try to throw out the cart since it's getting replaced, but then it comes to life and they go through his bucket list before he gets thrown out. I know the cart is iconic and all, but I thought they were actually going to get rid of it. It's kind of annoying that they didn't. This would have been a nice send-off and have made this feel more impactful and important. The cart is voiced by one of the storyboard artists, and this is the only episode he voiced in. They have like 3 people do all the one-off and background characters, so hearing a new voice that's only in this episode is kind of jarring, but in a good way. Also, how the hell did they manage to pull the cart out from the bottom of the ocean at the end? Getting that out must have sucked massive dick.
I wonder what's for dinner.
Mordecai, Rigby, and 2 others that I don't know the names of go to a praying mantis planet and try to get some dude's wallet back. For some reason, this is widely considered one of the worst season 8 episodes, which I don't see why. Sure, it's not great and the first half isn't that good, but it escalates into something very dumb and fun. Mordecai accidentally proposes to the king's daughter by giving her food, and if he marries her, then she vours him alive. Wait, how does that work? The king is alive, but the queen isn't, so does that mean royalty is an exception? Also, how the hell do they have kids? Do the dudes fuck before the wedding and then get eaten alive? That's one hell of a way to go out, man. Anyway, for some reason the praying mantis are scared of robots, which is dumb, but I like it, plus they die, so the episode gets brownie points for that.
Wait, let's actually maybe stop altogether.
But yeah, considering how bad the first half of season 8 is, it's very surprising and confusing as to why this is the episode most people don't like.
This ballroom used to host the most elegant balls in its day.
Whoa, were they big?
These balls were huge.
Mordecai, Rigby, and Eileen try to throw Margaret a surprise party, but uh-oh, stinky, they can't because the ballroom they want to use is haunted by spooky, scary ghosts. If they needed to get rid of the ghosts, they should have asked Luigi to suck them up, or if he was busy, they should have asked Sandy because she's good at sucking things up. Anyway, it's alright, but the main problem is that the party lasts for less than a minute since it starts right when the episode is about to end.
Hi, welcome to Chili's.
Thank you. But while I appreciate this honor, we have a cheater among us!
Benson tries to win against Jin in a chili cook-off competition. What do you want me to say? It's yet another competition episode. It's alright, and that's mainly due to this being between Benson and Jin, who are good rivals. Benson manages to win, which is nice and satisfying, although besides that, there's not much else that this does that's different from the other competitions. More importantly, chili is absolutely disgusting. I've never had it before, but it looks like vomit and diarrhea, which is why I'll never put that shit in my big
Mouse. Big mouse.
Up your bitch. Up your bitch.
Mr. Cool. That's such a cool name. I wish my last name was cool.
You're kidding me.
Rigby's high school bully is now a substitute teacher, and he bets that if he can beat him in a race, and he gets to pass his class. Wait, are substitute teachers even allowed to do that? I don't think so, but I guess the principal really wants Rigby to leave as soon as possible. Anyway, this bully was from the movie, although you don't need to watch it to know who he is, which I like. The last act is pretty good, with Rigby racing the bully, who's also driving in Don's dope-ass car.
Wake up. Kinda don't have the tense anymore.
Pops buys Mordecai and Rigby tants, they end up ruining them, so they get Eileen to help them make new ones. I'm not a fashion expert or anything, but all I'm gonna say is that tants are cool. If these were real, I wouldn't mind wearing them, although I probably wouldn't buy them because it'd be impossible to wash. There's no way I'm fitting them in my washer and dryer, and I'm definitely not going all the way to a dry cleaner and paying for it too. I like how Eileen gets to do something here, even if the tan she made gets destroyed, which sucks. Also, I can't believe Muscle Man fucked Starla while wearing tants. I mean, seriously, how the hell do you have sex while wearing them?
It's time to stop!
Mordecai, Rigby, and eventually everyone else gets stuck in a time loop. This is a really interesting idea and could have made for a fun full episode. I guess time resetting would have gotten repetitive, especially with how short it is, although they could have made it reset like every 10 minutes or so. They did this in Sunset's Backstage Pass from Equestria Girls, and that was pretty good, but as it is, it's still one of the better shorts. Mordecai and Rigby make music while driving through space. It's a short instrumental music video. It reminds me a lot of Gary battling his brother, although definitely not nearly as cool.
Hey, Eileen, what do you think of my new ripped bod? Yeah, she loves it.
Mordecai, Rigby, and eventually Muscle Man mess up a teleporter and their bodies get all messed up. It's a cool concept and I'm sort of surprised they didn't come up with this idea sooner. I like how Rigby becomes a fusion of him, Muscle Man, and Mordecai, which also turns him into an asshole. I've seen people complain about how he acts here, but it makes sense since for once he can get back at Mordecai for always hitting him. I don't care if it feels like he lost some development. Mordecai abused his power over him in punches for years now. Fuck you, Mordecai. I also like how Muscle Man stayed developed from the one episode last season where he got smarter. I figured that would be a one and done thing, but no, the series acknowledges that he did get smarter even if he isn't a genius.
Ringtone, pick up your phone.
Mordecai and Rigby try to write a hit song, but then give up and decide to come up with a catchy ringtone instead. I like how despite this being a 2-minute short, they switch the plot halfway through. It's very simple, but the ringtone is very catchy, so I'll give it that. Also, they crash into a record store, so that's spicy goodness.
Like a boss.
My name is Jeff.
Younger Flame here.
Pops trains in order to fight anti-Pops. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is a decent training episode. The ending is obvious. Of course, it turns out that everything Pops was doing was part of his training the entire time. We get a sneak peek at Pops fighting anti-Pops, which is definitely the highlight, although the rest of it gets heavily overshadowed by the next training episode. Muscle Man and High Five have amnesia and don't remember that they're best friends, so Muscle Man tries to make them both remember. It's a generic trope that's been done before in other shows, but what they did with it here is actually sort of interesting. Instead of Mordecai and Rigby helping them both, Muscle Man is the one who wants High Five to remember since he's fine moving on and forgetting about him. High Five rarely gets a spotlight like this, and it's different to see him not care about Muscle Man for once. He's usually this chill, nice dude that goes along with anything, but now he doesn't want to be Muscle Man's best friend because he thinks he wasn't treated right. They end up driving into the crash pit, which, wait, wasn't that already filled up over a season ago? Did they forget about this? Who knows, but either way, it's alright. Rigby accidentally ruins Benson's new portrait, so Mordecai paints a new one. I like how they finally use Mordecai's art skills in an episode. They rarely mention this in the series, which sucks because I feel like this could have been used a lot more. I also like how unsure and bothered he is by his own work since he never actually finished and got his degree. The ending where Benson praises Mordecai's painting is really good, although I don't like how it ends with the painting being broken. That was uncalled for.
Feel better now?
Everyone creates a band and enters a competition in order to win a new AC unit for the house. The title is The Return of Mordecai and the Rigbys, which had me believe their future selves would come back to try and get revenge. Despite that being a reused premise, I feel like it could have made for an interesting episode since their future selves are clearly the villains from the beginning. What they did here was fine. It's much more different than the first one. The plot is just not what I was expecting at all. They compete to win an AC unit, which I like because it's so simple, but if that's all they want, why doesn't Pops or Mailer just buy them a new one? Their performance is good though. They don't have any instruments since they broke them all and play with air instruments instead. Thought it would end with them winning, but it rips off that one Family Guy episode where Peter and Lois are singing while high, and it sounds awful. Benson replaces Party Pete, so the gang rescue him and find out that a secret organization has been cloning the best partiers and using them to make money. I did not need another Party Pete episode, although what they did here was fine. I'm probably more forgiving with this because this is only season 4 and this didn't reuse that many ideas by this point. However, this was the start of them showing that even as early as this, they were already running out of ideas. Anyway, the first Party Pete was very basic. They throw a party, Party Pete blows up, and that's it. But this one tries to add in a bunch of unnecessary lore to it, which for what it is, it's fine. The whole cloning thing is alright, and I like how Party Pete is just a chill guy who likes Sudoku puzzles. They do kill the clone in the exact same way though, so that's kind of dumb.
He needs some milk!
Pops wants to have fun at guys' night, so he tries to drink a gallon of milk in order to become one of the guys. Just like the surfing episode, I like seeing how stubborn and motivated Pops is when it comes to wanting to accomplish something. He has to drink a gallon of milk within an hour, although he fails and throws up multiple times. I love how despite everyone saying they'll let him become one of the guys without completing the challenge, Pops refuses because he wants to earn it himself. That's great and all, however what holds us back from being higher is the last act, which is when I lose interest. Pops passes out and goes to a world where everyone fails a challenge and it escalates into a bunch of white monsters trying to kill him. I don't know, this felt kind of unnecessary. I get it's regular show and all, but it feels too disconnected from the rest of the episode.
Eat spicy goodness like a boss.
Everyone wants to get Benson a mug that says world's best boss, however they're sold out everywhere, so they order one online but have to fight a bunch of guys to get it. I like how this one particular mug is impossible to find for no reason, and I also love how the villain looks like Patrick Bateman. The ending is also insane. Benson punches the boss, he gets stuck in a car, and then immediately gets hit by a tractor trailer.
Gotta go fast!
Pops eats a bunch of donuts that have too much sugar in them and then goes on a sugar rush. I like how for once, and I believe the only time in the series, Skips is wrong about the advice he gives. He says Pops eating more sugar would slow him down, but instead it's Benson's whole wheat donut that does. I don't even know why that would work. I'm not a food expert, probably because I only eat like 10 things, but even so, I don't think that makes sense. They should have gotten a tranquilizer gun and shot Pops to knock him out. Muscle Man accidentally sets off the fireworks for the 4th of July early, so he goes to Mexico to get some new ones from a guy he knows. This is basically the Breaking Bad episode. There's a cartel that sells drugs. They're in Mexico. One of the dudes is Hector and... This is one of, if not the only time where Muscle Man messed up and Mordecai and Rigby did nothing wrong. Despite him being the only one at fault, all 4 of them would have gotten fired, which holy shit, that would have been ironic if this is how Mordecai and Rigby got fired. Anyway, I don't get how everyone was so excited by the fireworks guy. If I waited hours just to see one firework that lasted not even a minute, I'd be furious. I'd rather watch cheap fireworks for like 30 minutes instead of this. Mordecai and Rigby get locked inside a portable toilet, meanwhile CJ and Eileen try to help them. It's another very simple one. It's fine, although still disappointing considering this is the first episode with CJ hanging out with the group. They also get sent to a military base and almost die, which is not where I expected this episode to go.
That's a woman? Huh?
Muscle Man gets dumped by Starla, so Mordecai and Rigby try to get them back together. Starla's design is nasty, which I get is the point. She's literally just Muscle Man with bigger tits, lipstick, and a different hairstyle. Some people hate her, which I never fully understood. She's not great, but she works well when she's only a minor side character. Here she's alright. I like how she immediately falls in love with Mordecai. It's both funny, disgusting, and cringy at the same time. Anyway, this shows a new side to Muscle Man since we find out he's not just a loud, crazy fat dude that constantly makes my mom jokes. He can struggle in a relationship and get depressed just like everyone else. However, we also see him make out with Starla, which, ew, I didn't need to see that. Mordecai and Rigby enter a space race, and of course they win. This is considered one of the best from season 8, which, I mean, yeah, it's one of the better ones, but is that really saying much when half of them suck? I would probably enjoy this a lot more if there weren't so many competitions and car chases all the goddamn time. The racetrack is cool, and they do use the setting of space to the episode's advantage since this couldn't have been done on Earth. This is another one where I can see people liking it more, but for me, it's alright.
Loser! You're a loser!
After getting dumped by CJ, Mordecai goes to Dumptown, USA, so so Rigby makes his way there and tries to get him back. Just like when Mordecai was depressed about Margaret dumping him, Rigby does his best to cheer him up and get his life back together. He might be a lazy asshole, but episodes like this remind me why I enjoy him so much. He's such a good friend that he got dumped by Eileen, even though it wasn't actually real since they're still together at the end. I like how the only reason Mordecai's roommates chase after him is because they want him to pick up their food for them. They're too lazy to do anything, but the thought of being forced to do something is what motivates them to get off their asses and move for once. I still hate Mordecai for how he disrespected CJ in the previous episode, but I guess he finally learned that he's a super duper fucking loser doo-doo head baka.
My neck, my back, lick my back, and my back.
Rigby wants to prove that he can work at a job by himself, so he starts working for a moving company. Some people hate this episode, which I don't see why. The only problem is that Mordecai is kind of an asshole to Rigby. Mordecai says that he's useless and that Rigby covering for him is the least he could do since he always messes up. Mordecai is right that Rigby has fucked up, caused problems, and is also lazy, but he's definitely not useless. He helped them beat the high score in Broken Bones, got their $7 refund, helped them get over his depression, as well as other things too. He's the least useful person in the park, but that doesn't mean he's useless. Anyway, I like how stupid the moving company is. They can only lift with their backs, even though that's really bad for them. The highlight is definitely Rigby being so stubborn, doing his job, and never giving up. Eileen also motivates and supports him along the way, which is great. Wish we got to see them act like this more throughout the show.
Hey, it's Fred! And it's really nice out, so I think I'm gonna go swimming later.
Mordecai and Rigby make a bet with Muscleman and High Five that they can make a better viral video than them. It's sort of like the Fosters episode with them uploading videos to YouTube, although this has Mordecai and Rigby go into the actual internet itself somehow. I like how the villain is just some asshole librarian who hates viral videos and thinks the internet should be used only for research purposes. Also, since this is all about viral videos, they should have gotten someone like Ray William
Johnson. Got him!
Mordecai, Rigby, and Pops want to go to a wrestling match. Benson tells them not to, but they go anyway. We find out that Pops is really good at wrestling, which is the first time we get a look at his backstory. I like how convenient it is that one of the wrestlers looks very similar to Pops and that he decides to stalk him for the next 4 years outside his house. The ending is great and might be the highlight since Benson tries to fire Mordecai and Rigby, but Pops sticks up for them. He's always been a chill dude, but seeing him save their asses like this shows how much he likes having them around. Anyway, the only issue is that I'm not into wrestling at all. The only thing I know about it is that there's a famous wrestler called Champ.
Who is Champ?
That question will be answered this Sunday night!
I think Moto likes you.
Mordecai accidentally sends CJ a text saying that he likes her, which makes him act like a cringy loser for the whole day. It's an alright rehash of Butt Dial, but at least they realize that they're reusing the premise since they go back into the phone dimension. Mordecai does finally ask CJ out on a date, but it doesn't ignore how much of a pussy he is throughout the rest of it.
That's right. Mary.
The gang hang out with Quips and try to make him enjoy his bachelor's party. I'm surprised Quips got another episode, mainly because the first was considered one of the weakest episodes by a lot of fans. This is alright, it's about the same as the first one, although it's not as cringy, which was both its greatest strength and weakness. Quips is still kind of mentally challenged, but the episode focuses more on Skips trying to find wings for them all to eat. Why does it matter so much if they have wings or not? Isn't there another way to get drunk besides wings? It'd be pretty funny if we found out there was another alcoholic food like steak or something else and they get drunk off that instead. Anyway, Quips' wife is just a normal girl, and we find out the reason why wings were sold out everywhere was because she bought them all for her party, so that's epic.
Do I get to eat a pig? No, Brooklyn, you don't get to eat a pig.
Benson buys a pig, however it turns out that he's a robber that also breaks his companion out of prison. At first I thought this episode was going to blow, but I like how crazy the story got. Not only that, but the pig actually wants to live a peaceful life with Benson and stop being a criminal. You'd think it would go the cliche route by having the episode be about Benson not believing that the pig is an evil bank robber, but no, they did something different. I don't know how, but this feels like a very grounded episode since nothing that crazy happens, despite again, the premise being about a pig breaking his friend out of prison. The gang want to watch a Laserdisc movie, however they find out the reason Laserdiscs are so rare is because a cult of VHS psychopaths destroyed nearly all of the players. This concept is so over the top and stupid, and I like it a lot, although there is one big problem. That being the last act, which I don't care for since it's an all-out brawl with a bunch of randos that I don't know at all. It is cool to see them use guns at least, but sadly it holds this episode back, which sucks because, like I said, the premise is great.
On today's episode of Content Cop, we're going to be looking at Jinx Reloaded.
Rigby is Jinx, which means he's not supposed to say anything until someone says his name 3 times. A lot of people really like this episode, but there's one big problem, which is that Rigby gets tortured for pretty much no reason. Mordecai is mad that Rigby picked up a quarter, and this somehow gives him the right to punch Rigby non-stop. Rigby has been a dick in other episodes, but here he literally didn't do anything wrong. As frustrating as this is though, the second half is thankfully great enough to make this worth watching. There's a giant Jinx monster which looks awesome, he turns everyone into zombies, it's pretty dark and intense. So yeah, this is one of the strangest episodes because half of it is kind of shitty while the other kicks ass. Mordecai and Rigby turn off the gravity in the house, plus a reference to Pilot by showing them making cereal, which is cool. It's really sad that this 2-minute short is better than half of season 8 since it takes a space setting and does something simple and fun with it. Mordecai and Rigby act stupid, mess up, except this time they do it in space, and that's something I wish season 8 focused on more if they wanted to have all these fillers.
Hey, Apple!
What?
Knife!
Speaking of see ya, what did one ocean say to the other ocean? See ya later.
I don't get it.
Skips' cousin Quips comes over, and everyone hates him because he keeps telling awful and cringy jokes. This one is super personal because I know someone who's identical to Quips. He's super annoying, he's unfunny, no one likes him, and he's too dense to realize it himself. I literally can't focus or take this seriously at all because of this. I just imagine this guy's Quips the entire time and laugh my ass off. I completely understand that I'm biased since this isn't that good of an episode, but I can't dislike it. Quips is super annoying, but at the same time it's entertaining because it's so cringy. Also, despite not watching most of the episodes in over a decade, I still remember Quips as well as his catchphrase Zingo. I've said Zingo from time to time over the years, so at the very least this is very memorable, even if again, it's not that great. One aspect I can't ignore though is the ending, which is pretty weak. Skips and Quips get trapped in a box, Quips continues to annoy Skips, which pisses him off and he manages to break the box. That's underwhelming, plus Skips randomly gets the idea to have Quips work as a clown because little kids are the only ones who find his jokes funny. I like the idea, but this wasn't hinted at anywhere else in the episode, so it feels kind of random. Benson eats the sandwich of death, so Mordecai, Rigby, and even the Death Kwon Do teacher go to a temple to save him. I didn't need another episode with the Death Kwon Do guy, but this is fine since it expands upon this quick one-off side character in a creative way. I like how the guy is actually a dickhead who stole his master's recipe so he could start his own sandwich business. Anyway, not a whole lot to say. I like it, but I'm sure a lot of other people would rate this much higher.
Get Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
The park health inspector comes and says Muscleman's trailer is a health hazard, so everyone cleans it up. However, it turns out the inspector is a psychopath that lost to Muscleman in the competition where he won the trailer. I like how over the top this is. This guy wants Muscleman's shitty trailer so bad that he faked being an inspector. His plan doesn't even make sense. He doesn't have any proof that he's an inspector, plus he purposely smashes the trailer. Like, what the hickey? Don't you want this trailer for yourself? Why are you breaking it? The car chase is one of the better ones, plus it ends with Muscleman driving a 16-wheeler off a cliff.
Excuse me, waiter. There is hair in my cake.
Mordecai and Rigby pick up a cake for Maillard's surprise birthday party, however they smash it and bake him a new one. It's another cake episode, although there's definitely some highlights worth noting. There's a Karen who tries to smash into them because she thinks they cut in front of her, even though it's due to her not knowing how to read. That's pretty funny. She's only here for like 2 minutes, but she might be the best part of the episode. Once they all finish making the new cake, they realize it's too big to fit through the door, so they use Pops' transporter to teleport it outside. Don't know why Benson couldn't just have Maillard walk inside and see the cake, but more importantly, Pops is a transporter because why not? Also, it's called Jimmy Kimmel, so that's disgusting! The ending is great too. Maillard gets so surprised that he goes into a coma for 3 weeks, and apparently that's something he always wanted to do. There's a decent amount of random stupid ideas thrown in here, but I kind of like how bizarre it is.
Your mama's so gay.
Mordecai and Rigby work with Muscleman, however they get tired of hearing his my mom jokes and piss him off. This is the first Muscleman-centered episode. It's pretty simple, and oh yeah, High Five is here too, although he does basically nothing. This does a good job at showing how much more respected and liked Muscleman is compared to Mordecai and Rigby. While I do like this, it also feels kind of wrong since Muscleman and High Five seem to slack off almost as much as them. They do get their jobs done and don't mess up, but still, it's a little unfair for Benson to treat them so much better. Anyway, the highlight has to be Mordecai and Rigby making the your mom jokes, as well as them kissing a photo of Muscleman's ass.
ass!
I get that not everyone will find the My Mom jokes funny, but Mordecai yelling at Muscle Man is sort of his own fault. Like, yeah, he can find it annoying, but that doesn't mean you have to get this upset over it. Maybe if Muscle Man kept making 6-7 jokes, then I might understand, but he's not, and the My Mom jokes are pretty epic.
Who are you? Who is this?
Muscle Man decides to go on a diet, so he enjoys all his favorite foods one last time. However, I did not expect this to go in the direction it did. I thought Muscle Man was going to struggle being on a diet and it would have been a repeat of The Longest Weekend. But no, instead it's a callback to when Death said Muscle Man would die in a hot dog eating contest. Don't think this was planned out, but either way, it resulted in a surprisingly fun episode. Also, I was wondering how Muscle Man was going to win, and he did so by making out with Stara, which made Death vomit, thus disqualifying him. That's fucking disgusting, but it made me laugh out loud since it was so unexpected.
What does this button do?
The dome is back, everyone gets told not to push a button, and this makes Benson go mucho loco. I thought nothing would happen if they pressed the button, although maybe Benson would have gotten fired. No one presses it, and it turns out it was all just a test, which is pretty underwhelming. That being said, this is still a good psychological episode, although it's probably worse on a rewatch.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Rigby comes up with a plan to surprise Eileen, which is a lot harder to do than it sounds because she's so much smarter than him. It's crazy that Rigby went through all this effort just to surprise Eileen, although that does show how much he cares for her. He even got a bunch of hillbillies to dress up and pretend to be bikers to scare them, which is pretty cray-cray. After getting launched into space, everyone tries to survive and get a cell phone signal. This is a good way to start off season 8, and I thought this was going to be what most of the episodes would be about. Everyone is in space, they have a limited amount of food, water, oxygen, supplies, etc., so I figured a lot of the season would show them struggling to survive. For some reason, that got dropped almost immediately, but at least it's cool to see that showcased here. Anyway, there's this one room which has a huge door that's wide open, which, I'm not that smart, but shouldn't all the oxygen be getting sucked out into space? Or maybe that already happened, which would mean everyone here is somehow breathing with no air. That's pretty dumb, and shortly after they open the top of the dome, which shows all the oxygen getting sucked out. Don't know how no one thought of this, or who knows, maybe they didn't care.
Here's John Wayne at the first Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, pilgrims!
Mordecai and Rigby ruin all of the food during Thanksgiving, so they enter a competition to try and win a new turkey. This is a Thanksgiving episode, which isn't that common for cartoons to have, especially because Christmas and Halloween are much more popular. Steven Universe had one, which I'm gonna be honest, that completely shits on this. Steven has its fair share of flaws, but one thing it nailed was its Thanksgiving special. It introduced the best one-off character, plus it's one of the series' best episodes. Regular shows, on the other hand, is good, although it's still only around the middle of the list. Donald Trump is the villain, and his whole motive is wanting to buy the rights to Thanksgiving, which is pretty damn funny. What's more insane is that this came out in 2013, so yeah, I guess regular show really did take after Simpsons since it predicted the future too. Actually, wait, no it didn't, because they fucking kill off Donald Trump. For some reason, everyone's family is here, which doesn't make much sense. This is a workplace. Shouldn't everyone be at their own houses with their own families? I thought that's what this episode would have been about. Have you ever heard of multiple different families coming together to celebrate Thanksgiving at one of their relatives' boss's home? No, you haven't, because that's weird. And not only that, but Rigby's dad gets introduced here, and he seems like a pretty chill guy. Don't know why they retconned him after this, but I guess it's because there was more they could do with him if he was a dickhead father.
I have to tell you about the future!
Skips' past self comes to the present, so everyone helps him get back to his own time. I like how past Skips is a jerk since it shows how much he matured over the years. He even steals Mordecai and Rigby's pizza pouches because I guess food back then tasted like shit. They do reuse the plot of him dying from free cake, even though it is done differently. For some reason, them talking to Skips also keeps him from dying because it gives him the will to continue living, I guess. Anyway, this is the episode that inspired the movie since it has the Time-nado in it. We see Mordecai and Rigby in high school, which again, I don't know why this wasn't a quick callback in the movie. That's kind of dumb.
A wallet, a watch, waffles.
Benson gets drunk, wakes up in the desert, and has to get back to the park in time to receive a golden watch. The setting is unique, with it mainly taking place in the desert and the prison cell. There's this one part where everyone tricks a security guard and escapes by hiding behind Pops' head. Even for regular show standards, this has to be one of the dumbest but still funniest moments in the show. Benson also drives so fast in a rocket that he travels into the future, which I didn't expect. Then again, this is what, like the 5th episode where time travel has been used, so maybe I shouldn't be surprised by this point.
Yeah, couldn't hurt to ask.
Oi, mate, can I borrow your pen?
Benson accidentally breaks one of Maillard's signed guitars, so he, Mordecai, and Rigby go to hell so they can get a new one signed. This is one of the rare times where Benson is at fault and Mordecai and Rigby did nothing wrong. I like how self-aware the series is at this point, since going to hell seems normal to them. I also love how chill Death is too. He's not a villain anymore and more of an anti-hero since he casually drives them to hell. Mordecai and Rigby take Benson's car without him knowing, so he goes crazy and hires a bounty hunter from the future to kill them. This is another one that's unnecessarily over the top, but in a good way. There's a bounty hunter from the future who wants to kill Mordecai and Rigby since violence is outlawed there. He charges $500,000, but Benson has a coupon that makes him pay only $500. I don't know why, I just find that so stupid and funny, and I love it. The villain is pretty threatening and even memorable for a one-off villain. He's not one of the series' best or anything, but definitely one of the better ones.
I like turtles.
Mordecai, Rigby, CJ, and Eileen go to the beach to see turtles, but find out there's a secret organization that uses the turtles to make themselves look young. I don't care for the turtles plot that much, but thankfully CJ deciding to still be friends with Margaret makes up for this. It's refreshing to get an episode like this where there's no bullshit misunderstanding plot that makes me hate any of the characters. I wish we got more like this, but I guess the writers thought Mordecai's cringy stupid love triangle was more interesting. Everyone goes to IKEA in space to get Skips a new bed, meanwhile a bounty hunter chases after them. This feels like a much better version of Garage Door since there's more going on here. There's a bounty hunter who wants to kill them, plus we find out that Pops is the chosen one too. It's not just another episode where the characters go to a location to find something, which is why Garage Door and California King didn't work for me. Seeing the cast in a different location is nice, but there has to be something else besides that, which is why this works.
I see you.
Everyone goes to meet the seer while they're also being chased by a giant streaming service monster. This is apparently considered one of the best episodes, which I mean it's good, but I wouldn't say it's much more than that. There's a lot of meta humor, the seer is basically the audience, and she says everything that most fans agree with. Mordecai is a loser, CJ was much better suited for him than Margaret, Eileen should have gotten more screen time, and of course how the show got worse as time went on. I love that the staff is self-aware of this since even they have to admit that what they wrote has some notable flaws. This is also the third Format Wars episode, but the reason this works where the second one failed is because it's not just about the Format Wars. That's more of a secondary plot here since the main goal is meeting the seer. If this was like the second one where it's just everyone fighting against a giant streaming service monster, then it sucks since it's doing the same exact thing again. But no, they did something new and different with it and in a pretty decent way, so I can't complain that much.
Oh, everyone point and laugh. First question. What color are violets? Easy. Red!
Rigby gets humiliated on a TV show, so he wants to get back on and restore his dignity. This was another one where I did not expect the episode to go in the direction I thought it would. Benson finds out about Rigby being humiliated, and at first I thought he was going to laugh at him, but surprisingly he ends up sympathizing and helping Rigby out. Benson and Rigby get along the least out of anyone in the main cast, probably because he's the boss and Rigby messes up even more than Mordecai. They work better together in the lunch club, but for this episode, it's still nice to see them get along like this. Anyway, why would the show's host ask Rigby who has a universe record for broken bones when he knows Rigby holds it? Did he really think he'd be that dumb? Maybe this would work as one of the first questions, but not as the very last one.
It's Friday, I'm in love.
Hey, watch it! Not in the face!
Benson has a crush on one of the scientists named Pam, so he eats some wings and hangs out with her. Benson is a simp. He's been with so many girls before, got dumped, but still wants to get some of that smart scientist pussy. Then again, can you really blame him? My man wants some goddamn action and he deserves it. This would probably be lower if Pam was just a one-off character, but she's in more episodes after this, plus more importantly, she stays with and marries Benson. That's pretty satisfying, plus they play Friday I'm in Love here, which is great because that song is legitness.
Why don't you just picture everybody naked?
Naked?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like doing this.
Pops is scared to make a speech, so Mordecai and Rigby try to help him get over his fear. Even on a rewatch, it's still surprising seeing how the simple concept ends up with Pops falling into his head. I like how Pops imagines Mordecai and Rigby as super realistic animals and they both have British accents. The ending is great too. Pops makes his speech while turned around, although it's only 5 seconds long, so that's funny. Anyway, making speeches does suck. I remember back in college, I took a speech class and made a 5-minute long speech about the Smash 4 Grand Finals at EVO 2018. Basically, the finalists were both Bayonetta players. They did nothing and stalled for like a minute and everyone kept booing them. They were douchebags, but not as much as my bitch ass teacher. That motherfucker gave me a C-. What an ass. asshole.
You pissed me off.
Rigby ruins the hot dogs for a barbecue, so he and Mordecai go to get new ones. Rigby is kind of unlikable here, although I'm willing to cut him some slack since this still is one of the first episodes. There's the iconic "you piss me off" scene, which offended a bunch of woke parents, so Cartoon Network had to censor it to "you tick me off." That's annoying, but what might be worse is that this isn't even on the DVD set as a special feature. This version of the scene isn't officially available anywhere, which sucks, although you can still watch it on YouTube. Also, why is pissed apparently not okay, but crap is? They never censored that, but oh no, piss is worse because, piss comes from a dick. I don't fucking know. Anyway, this is also the episode that has the hot dogs who want to eat everyone, but then they turn into cannibals and eat themselves, so that's epic. Benson gets shit on at the end for buying the wrong hot dogs, even though he didn't and it was all Rigby's fault. That's kind of annoying, but I guess Rigby already learned his lesson, so maybe they didn't want to shit on him even more here.
My name is Jeff.
Rigby changes his name to Trash Boat, thinking it'll make him look cool, however everyone just laughs at how stupid it is. Rigby kind of deserves to be shit on for being this dumb, plus I love how he can afford to change his name but can't afford to change it back. There's this famous guy who comes from the future, and Jesus, I just realized how much the show loves using time travel. Anyway, he wants to kill Rigby because he's the most popular guy in the world, even though Rigby wants to change his name back. All he had to do was give Rigby the $50, but instead he's so insane that he wants to kill him, which wouldn't even solve anything. The ending is somehow even more over the top because everyone from the future who has the most popular name comes and kills each other.
We just got a letter. Wonder who it's from.
Hey, there's more writing. What? Let's meet between 6 and 7.
High Five Ghost gets a postcard from a girl he had a crush on from a few years ago, so everyone helps him figure out where and when to meet up with her again. This is the only High Five centered episode, which makes this stand out more, although it's nothing that special. High Five isn't that interesting of a character, but that could just be because the show barely explored him since he's mainly seen as Muscle Man's best friend. Just like Pam I Am, this introduces a love interest for one of the cast that thankfully stays with and marries him in the finale. It'd be kind of annoying if this chick dumped High Five like an episode later, but thankfully that didn't happen. Also, High Five's brother is a cop now and he drives through a mall, so that's cool.
Duck this one.
Everyone enters a dodgeball competition, however Mordecai can't concentrate because he's still embarrassed after kissing CJ at the New Year's party. This comes right after the New Year's episode, which thank God, I'm glad they didn't wait like another 10 episodes to resolve this. It is awfully convenient that they just so happen to meet CJ here, but you know what? I don't care. It's another competition, although it's mainly about Mordecai and CJ's relationship, which I like. A dodgeball episode sounds fun, but they already had the bowling episode, which was great, even if it was pretty typical. Seeing the episode quickly glance over everyone beating the Magic team, and especially Jin's team, was surprising. Jin is Parker Benson's rival, so to see them nonchalantly skim over them winning seems a bit underwhelming. Then again, there's only so much you can do in these competitions, so seeing them not focus on the competition itself I do appreciate. Mordecai is also an idiot for losing to CJ. I don't think he let her win, but still, he could have won this easily.
You really think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies?
Margaret pretends to have a boyfriend and go on a double date with Mordecai and CJ. This is the only other episode where Margaret is the main character, and this is definitely a step up from her other one. I like how it turns out Margaret lied about having a boyfriend before, which made sense, and CJ was about to kill everyone at her party. That being said, she still didn't need to lie about it, even if it made for a pretty entertaining episode. Yes, it's predictable. Of course they're going to find out that she lied, but it's so satisfying seeing her get shit on for once. She has to admit that she's wrong, which the show almost never addresses. Yes, Mordecai is usually at fault for being a stupid loser, but Margaret is also far from perfect too. It's kind of like grilled cheese deluxe since the plot is centered on one big lie, but it's enjoyable for different reasons. Margaret's pretend boyfriend is great. He's always wanted to be an actor, and seeing him try so hard here is pretty fun.
Round, round, get around, I get around.
Mordecai and Rigby have computer problems, however Skip struggles to fix it, even though he's always able to fix anything. Skips is usually the person everyone goes to for advice, so it's refreshing to see him have a hard time trying to help them for once. We get introduced to Tecmo, who's a cool side character, although that's mainly because he's voiced by the legend 27 himself, Steve Blum. I also love how it turns out Skips was right and that the computer was evil, and the way to solve the error is to smash it.
A duck walked up to a lemonade stand.
Step off!
Mordecai and Rigby need to get rid of a bunch of baby ducks, however the longer they hang out with them, the more they realize that they're actually kind of cool. I think this is a fan favorite, which just like the seer is good, but nothing that special. The ducks are fine, I guess, but why are they so appealing? Is it because people think they're cute or something? Also, I don't like how they talk at the end. They were more charming when they were silent the whole time. The ending is great though. The villain is some fisherman who steals the ducks and attacks their mom. Then the ducks transform into a giant man duck monster and slices him in half.
You're not my dad!
CJ enters a mini golf competition against her dad, and guess what? He's an asshole. It's yet another competition, but at least CJ's dad being the main opponent keeps things interesting. This is the only time we see her dad, which seems like a missed opportunity. Feels like they could have done an episode where Mordecai goes to dinner with CJ's parents or something. It'd be kind of like a repeat of Maxin and Relaxing, but at least it'd be neat to see her parents. Anyway, while this is good, I've got to point out again that K&D did this better with its mini golf episode. Rigby, Mordecai, and CJ go to Eileen's apartment and set up her new flat screen TV for her, although her roommate is an asshole and steals it from them. Eileen's roommate is so stupid. She keeps a TV which has a ghost of her family's lawyer in it, and apparently if she ever broke it, she'd have to leave and go back to her house. But she's also apparently super rich, so her moving back into her mansion is supposed to be a bad thing. Why was she even here in the first place? This makes no sense at all, but I like it. Anyway, we get hinted at Margaret coming back at the end, so that's dumb, but not as dumb as this being the 6th season, 7th episode.
If you are you, then who am I? Oh, you're so stupid.
Let me guess. You like pyrotechnics?
No, but I do like this.
Rigby is too lazy to do his job, so he pays someone to do it for him. However, it turns out that the guy he hired is a doppelganger and tries to take over his life. I know Rigby is lazy, but Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne. This is a new low even for him. He is unlikable, but at least seeing him get mad at someone taking over his life and replacing him makes up for this. The guy gets arrested, even though he doesn't seem like that bad of a dude. I'm surprised they never brought him back, especially considering how many things the show liked to reuse as the series went on. I don't know, maybe he comes back and helps him stop someone or something, since he changed and became a better person. Anyway, Benson somehow knows what Rigby's biggest fear is, which is odd. Shouldn't Mordecai be the one and only person who knows this?
My body is ready.
We tried it the nice way. Now we do it the Skips way.
Rigby eats worse than Nico Cotto avocado and ends up losing his body. Now listen, I eat like shit, but even so, this is just being stupid. My man is about to get type 6-7 diabetes eating like this. Then again, Mordecai eats a goddamn salad, and that's fucking disgusting! I like how there's another guy like Rigby, except he lost his body for the opposite reason by working out too much. He also somehow gives Rigby a 6-pack despite only using his body for like what, not even 20 minutes? Anyway, this is hands down one of the funniest moments in the series.
Oh man, my mouth was open. But
now we're stressed out.
Skips is stressed out about a lot of things, which almost causes him to die, so everyone goes to a temple to destroy stress. This is a very personal episode for me. I've been suffering from stress for the past couple of years and have to take medication for it. The way it's portrayed is accurate, except for Skips yelling right before passing out. You know you're going to pass out right before it happens, but you also think you can prevent it, which doesn't do anything. It just sort of happens. You wake up like a minute later, even though it feels like 2 hours. It's super weird. Anyway, I'm assuming the last act is supposed to be a homage to Samurai Jack, since it has a samurai sword and the black monster is a reference to a coup. Or maybe not, who knows? I guess I like thinking about Samurai Jack a lot because that show kicks ass. Rigby accidentally breaks Margaret's diary, so Skips helps him fix it. There's this one part where Skips tells them to close their eyes, but Rigby is a dumbass, opens them, and somehow spawns a giant Margaret which almost destroys the city. The highlights are easily the big reveals, such as Skips changing his name from Walks because of his high school crush. Mordecai has been sleeping on Rigby's mattress this entire time, which makes sense because I don't think Benson is mean enough to not include a bed for Rigby. Most importantly though, we find out that Rigby thinks Eileen is hot without her glasses on. Hell yeah, Rigby finally starts to come out from his tsundere phase, although not much happens with him and Eileen for like 3 full seasons. Mordecai and Rigby have Party Pete come to make their party cool, however he goes crazy and Yep, he fucking dies. And not only that, but we see him grow bigger and bigger because I guess the writers have some sort of inflation fetish. Anyway, how does Pete enjoy drinking this soda when it's like 30 years expired? Who is he, LA Beast? Also, how the hell does everyone stop Pete but also fix the entire house before Benson shows up? I know it's a cartoon and all, but even so, I don't believe this for one goddamn second.
Time is a valuable thing.
This is the clock song. We're setting all the clocks wrong.
Mordecai and Rigby set back all the clocks in the park, which of course messes everything up. For some reason, they're dumb enough to mess with time again, even though that already led to Mordecai killing Rigby. Anyway, the show does too many pranks like this, but I have to admit this is one I enjoy quite a bit. It's such a simple but fun concept, and I love how the park moves itself because it's trying to go into the right time zone since all the clocks are 3 hours behind. The clock song also has no reason to be as catchy as it is. I get it stuck in my head sometimes. The dome gets put on the park, which makes Benson go crazy. He's so caught up in proving that he didn't get the date wrong in the email sent to him, which is kind of funny, but at the same time, it feels kind of forced for him to care this much about it. Everyone else also gets used to living inside the dome pretty quickly, which seems a bit unrealistic. I know they've dealt with crazy stuff before, but shouldn't they be more scared or nervous?
Nice! Nice! Naughty!
Everyone needs to help Santa by destroying a super powerful present that has the power to destroy Christmas forever. This is probably going to be a hot take, but I'm not a huge fan of this. I still enjoy this, but it seems like a lot of people love this and say it's one of the seasons and even one of the series' best. My main problem is that it doesn't feel much like a Christmas special. Like, I get it's supposed to be super over the top and silly, with the stakes being the destruction of Christmas, but because of that, it feels more like just a regular episode. Again, this fits as a regular show Christmas special, but it just doesn't feel that much like a regular Christmas special, if that makes sense. The villain sucks, he's just evil because why not, plus it's even more disappointing since they had more runtime to develop him. Jin helping everyone was nice as well as unexpected, especially when this is only his second appearance. I love how Thomas is stuck in the stair railway the entire time because the writers didn't want to do anything with him. Anyway, this is still a good regular show episode, but I'm definitely not going to be watching this in December when I watch all my favorite cartoon Christmas specials.
Some animals give me boners!
Rigby talks to his future self in a toilet and is told to prevent Mordecai from kissing someone at the New Year's party. This is another showcase of how much Rigby cares for Mordecai, even though what he's doing seems very strange. This was one of the rare post-season 4 episodes I've seen before, but even so, it's still surprising seeing CJ come back after 2 seasons. They do the cliche with Mordecai not believing Rigby, but it works well since Rigby has been a dick to him before, so this doesn't seem out of character. I mean, seriously, this is the same dude who ruined your time with Margaret during the Solid episode for literally no reason other than to be a giant asshole. Anyway, Mordecai should have gone after CJ instead of standing there like a stupid baka. Mordecai finally kisses Margaret, however he ruins it by having awful breath, so he uses Rigby's time machine to go back and fix it. Okay, how bad did Mordecai's breath smell if Margaret was this appalled by it? Does this dude never brush his teeth? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised because of how much he slacks off with everything else. All I'm gonna say is that there's no way his breath smelled worse than this one kid I knew back in high school. He had such bad breath, he purposely started breathing and saying hi in front of people. It was fucking disgusting. Not even joking, his breath was so foul and strong it could melt the paint off the walls. It was that bad. Anyway, I like how people are just able to buy time machines so easily like this, although this makes the movie a bit worse knowing that the teacher could have just bought one. You can't even say that it's too expensive because Rigby can afford it, and if he can, then literally anyone could buy one. It's a cool plotline, but the ending is super frustrating since Mordecai pussies out and doesn't kiss Margaret. Like, really, dude? You went through all of this effort for nothing? What an asshole. Everyone goes to Chuck E. Cheese to get Pops a pair of fuzzy dice for his birthday, however it results in him getting into a giant shootout with Freddy fucking Fazbear. I'm convinced Scott Cawthon watched this episode and this is what inspired him to make FNAF. There's no way he hasn't seen this, and I can't get over how this came out like 2 years before the game. This is actually insane. Anyway, the animatronics coming to life sort of just happens, but this is one of the rare times where I don't really mind because of how crazy the last act is. They all start shooting each other with real-life guns and get massacred. This has to be one of the most impressive scenes the show got away with. I still can't believe Cartoon Network allowed this, but not the word pissed.
We know your home skips, pick up the phone skips,
We know you're home, Skips. Pick up the phone, Skip.
Mordecai and Rigby do Skips' chores for a day, although they accidentally break his hands and have to fight a giant evil baby. This is kind of a rehash of Free Cake since Mordecai and Rigby bother Skips on an important day when he has to do something for the giant babies. It feels different enough, but the similarities are still there, plus they even mention Skips' birthday too. For some reason, Rigby is able to figure out how to get the piano through the door, but Skips can't, which seems kind of dumb. Anyway, one of the babies dies, which could have been to raise the stakes for the episode. Although I feel like the animators wanted to get rid of him so they had one less baby to draw every time they showed up after this, but that's just a lame theory. Mordecai, Rigby, Margaret, and Eileen go camping, however shit hits the fan and eventually they get chased by Nokotan's father. The first two acts are very slice of life and typical, but that's something I really enjoyed. Unfortunately, what holds us back is the last act, which like I said, is a crazy chase sequence with a deer who wants to kill them. I know it's regular show, but even so, not every episode needs a wacky ending like this. It's still fine for what it is, it doesn't suck or anything, but it is jarring going from the first two acts to this. Anyway, Rigby and Eileen finally get along, which is nice, plus Mordecai is a dumbass for locking the keys in Margaret's car as well as draining her battery too.
So just do it!
To clear up the confusion, stars are made of gas. They shine from thermonuclear fusion.
Thanks for clearing that up, Eileen.
Mordecai, Rigby, Margaret, and Eileen go to look at a meteor shower, and after 4 goddamn seasons, Mordecai finally asks Margaret out. This moment is nice, although it's hard to love it since it took so long due to Mordecai being a loser. They only stay together for not even 10 episodes, but either way, thank God this at least happened. Anyway, there's this great moment between Mordecai and Margaret where they're talking about college and their future. It's very down to earth and real, and I wish we got more scenes like this throughout the show.
You pay this woman to sit on babies?
Mordecai and CJ are supposed to go on a date, however they end up babysitting Thomas instead. This is one of the rare times where a reused idea is actually made better than the original episode. The first one was just a standard babysitting episode, but this is more focused on Mordecai and CJ trying to enjoy their date. Like a lot of these sequels, I didn't need another Thomas episode, but surprisingly, I'm glad we got this. I also like how the climax is them being chased in hell by monsters because I thought Mordecai was asking out this ugly-ass Premantis chick.
Mattel Electronics presents P-17 Bomber.
Mordecai and Rigby beat an Atari game and get a secret map that leads to a bunch of golden badges, so they go to a mall and try to find them. It's fun, but listen, I know it's regular show, but some things here don't make any sense. Did they really need to carry the TV around with them all day? Why couldn't Mordecai have just drawn a map of it on a piece of paper? It's not detailed at all. He could have easily done this. Also, how did they manage to keep the console on when unplugging it from the outlet? I know they keep it on by using a battery, but it was initially plugged into the wall, so they need to unplug it in order to plug it into the charger. Anyway, I like how Benson wasn't actually that mad at them for stealing his car battery and just wanted to hang out. It shows how much more he enjoys hanging out with them as the series progresses. Benson becomes an English teacher in China, and Rigby decides to join him so he can get credit for a foreign language class. This doesn't feel much like a regular show episode, but still, it's surprisingly fun. We find out Benson's last name is Dunwoody, and hey, wait a minute, isn't that the guy from... Rigby also almost fails this class, even though it's English, which wow, I know he's dumb, but even so, this is cray-cray.
Do it again, I wasn't looking.
Mordecai, Rigby, Margaret, and Eileen go snow tubing, and we find out that Eileen is scared of tubing because she hurt herself when she was a kid. It's kind of typical, Eileen is scared of tubing, but eventually she does it and isn't scared anymore. I'd be harsher on this, but it's an Eileen episode, plus it's still interesting seeing her be scared of such a simple and fun thing.
What the fuck?
Oh boy, after bitching about anthologies like what, 6 or 7 times now, we finally get to the good one which started it all, Terror Tales of the Park. This is easily the best of the Terror Tales, and part of that is due to this being the very first one. Anthologies might not be a brand new concept, but it's something that wasn't done in the series before, so this felt fresh and different. Not only was this the first Halloween and holiday special, but also the first 22-minute episode too. I don't give a shit what they say on the DVDs. This is one episode, and I fucking hate that this is listed as 2 separate ones. Anyway, another reason why this is good is because none of the tales suck like a decent amount of the other ones. Muscle Man's is by far the worst. It's not bad or anything, it's just pretty average, especially compared to the other two. He gets stuck in an RV full of ghosts who used to be in a rock band, but then he crashes at the end. Pops' story is alright. There's a doll who wants to draw all over everyone's faces, and it ends with him getting burned alive. If this wasn't the first tale, it probably wouldn't be as memorable, but one thing that's underappreciated about this is how it begins. The episode immediately starts here, which makes you think the entirety of it is going to be about this doll. But no, once it's done, it gets revealed that it was all just a story being told by Pops. When I first saw this, I was so confused and honestly a bit disappointed because again, I'm not a huge fan of anthologies, but either way, it was very surprising and none of the other Terror Tales managed to live up to this intro. It would have been cool if some of the other Terror Tales weren't named Terror Tales and it immediately began with one of the tales instead of it always being, hey, let's tell scary stories. I guess it's a tradition or something, but again, they all liked how shocking this was on the first watch. Anyway, the last tale is easily the best out of any of them, which of course is Rigby turning into a house. The premise is so dumb, but it's extremely surprising seeing what they were able to get away with here. This is by far the highlight. Literally everyone dies, Muscle Man gets skinned alive, Skips gets burned in the chimney, and Mordecai gets decapitated. I know I already complained about this before, but how is saying piss not okay, but seeing characters get decapitated and skinned alive isn't? This might not be scary to me, but at the very least it's unsettling, which if that's the case, then yeah, this passes as a good horror episode. But yeah, there's some great aspects here. Unfortunately, there are issues, but the first Terror Tales is still solid and worth rewatching every Halloween.
Power glove. Everything else is child's play.
Mordecai and Skips compete in a competition to win the Power Glove. However, Rigby is upset that Mordecai asked Skips to be his partner instead of him. Both Mordecai and Rigby are a bit unlikable. Mordecai is wrong for picking Skips, but at the same time, Rigby makes way too big of a deal out of this. Like, yeah, competing in the tournament is important, but would it really matter that much if they came all the way here just to lose immediately? In some way, I kind of like that they're both wrong, mainly because it means neither of them are completely at fault. Also, I know this wouldn't have happened, but I would have lost my shit if James Rolfe made a cameo.
Did you hear that, Orson? This lad thinks that I am cool.
Can you read that back to me?
Overruled, Judge. Or is it overcooled?
Mordecai and Rigby become too cool and almost die because of it. I like how being cool just means changing your clothes and has nothing to do with posing or saying anything. Also, everything they wear isn't cool, and in all seriousness, this hentai outfit I have is so much cooler. Anyway, it's a bit too simple. The first act is just a montage of them trying to impress Benson. After that, they're in a courtroom for like half the episode, but it sort of makes up for it by being funny. Mordecai and Rigby call out sick and go down a slide for over a minute straight. This is easily one of the best shorts, and that's because of how insanely impressive it is. This slide sequence is one continuous shot for almost a minute and a half straight. I don't know how long this took to animate, but I'd imagine it was a big pain in the ass to make.
Yeah, spoiler alert. You're black.
What?
Mordecai and Rigby binge a show before its finale, however they miss it and try their best not to get spoiled. This feels a lot like a season 2 or 3 episode, but in a good way. There isn't anything crazy or life-threatening that happens, but the premise is so simple and relatable, which is why a lot of people consider this one of season 8's best. This definitely could have taken place on Earth, which isn't a bad thing, but they do make good use of having the space station as the main setting. I wish more of season 8's first half was like this, just regular show episodes that just so happen to take place in space. Benson plays a super duper cool drum solo and also exposes his ex-band members for being giant assholes. It's cool seeing them show more of Benson's backstory, especially since we already found out that he was a stick hockey pro in the previous season. Not sure if this was planned, but this explains why he was so good at drums in Summertime Lovin'. Anyway, this helps you understand why Benson is so mad at Mordecai and Rigby all the time. They slack off constantly, meanwhile he worked so hard, became a professional stick hockey player, as well as a drummer for one of the world's most popular bands. Yet despite all of his efforts, no one seems to remember him, plus he's stuck as a park manager.
You got a friend in me.
We get a flashback episode showing how Muscle Man and High Five Ghost first met. Seeing them meet for the first time wasn't something I needed, although after watching it, I do appreciate that we got this. I like how High Five really hasn't changed at all and has always been a good person, meanwhile Muscle Man was a jerk and slowly became more mature as the show went on. Also, how the hell did High Five lift Muscle Man in the crash pit? Doesn't blood weigh like well over 100 pounds?
Nerf this.
Rigby gets sprayed by a were-skunk, and if he doesn't find a cure, he'll stay and turn into one forever. Definitely one of the darkest regular show episodes. Rigby is super threatening for once and even manages to scare Eileen, which makes him feel like shit. The last act is pretty thrilling, plus I think they killed a guy who was a were-skunk, or who knows, maybe he's still alive. Anyway, Rigby smells awful here, but not as much as this kid in my 11th grade English class. The smell was so bad that one day some nurse or health department lady came in for the first 10 minutes and talked about personal hygiene. It was the funniest thing ever because everyone knew why she was there since it was only for that one kid.
Hey, little dude. Want to make a prank phone call?
Pranks are funny, huh? You think they're funny? Well, what do you guys think of my prank? Ring, ring. Hello, what's that? What do you mean they hit the second tower?
Mordecai and Rigby try pranking the master prank caller, but they piss him off and get sent back to the 80s. I like how such a simple concept ends up turning into yet another time-traveling plotline. That was unexpected. It also ends with them pranking Benson with the master prank caller, which I think is one of the rare times where the villain ends up befriending them. This is especially surprising because this is season 1, so you'd think every episode would always end with the villain dying.
What is going on here? Breakfast!
Why can't you take anything seriously? Why are you so uptight? What's going on in here?
Get the fuck out of my room and play Minecraft!
Maillard forces either Rigby or Benson to resign by the end of the day, otherwise they both get fired, and it results with them both bonding for the whole day. Rigby is kind of a dick in the beginning because he refuses to quit but makes up for it since he gets along so well with Benson. I love seeing this more relaxed side to Benson. It shows why he's kept Mordecai and Rigby around this whole time since deep down he's very similar to them. The ending is great too. Benson writes a letter to Maillard saying they both quit and that he can go fuck himself. However, Maillard can't read it, so Pops takes it and lies by saying they wrote that they're sorry and then eats it. Mordecai accidentally butt dials Margaret and leaves her a cringy voicemail, so he tries to get her phone and delete it. Mordecai singing is cringy, but really funny, especially since we hear it twice. You know, if he was smart, he should have just told her that he butt dialed her accidentally, and it lasted 2 minutes without him saying anything. That way Margaret deletes it without hearing it, although I guess there is a chance she accidentally clicks and listens to it. Anyway, it's simple and memorable, plus this is the first time we get hinted at that Margaret likes Mordecai.
This disc is 2 hours of bloopers, and this one I call Mordecai Pulls a Mordecai. It's a 2-disc set.
Everyone throws Pops a party since the following day is when he fights Anti-Pops. It's a nice calm before the storm episode, and it's somewhat sad since everyone knows that this is most likely going to be the last time they see Pops. I can see others getting more emotional over this and ranking it higher than me, but overall it's pretty good.
Can you smell what the rock is cooking?
Pam breaks up with Benson, which makes him depressed. However, he meets a rock who falls in love with him. This makes sense since he and Pam just started dating and their relationship wouldn't work. This is especially so since they don't know how long he'll be in space, and it's not like he can just go back to Earth whenever he wants. Oh wait. Anyway, like I said, there's a rock who falls in love with him who's also voiced by Sadie from Steven Universe. It's so insanely stupid but funny. Her name is Roxy and she has a friend named Crystal who's a crystal. That's the joke. I kind of wish they went out. I feel like this would be both funny but also give Benson a reason to want to stay in space since he's dating her. Instead, he and everyone else are just here at this point because, they feel like it.
When in doubt, pinky out.
I'll do you one better, Herb. Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Starla's parents are coming to town, so Muscle Man tries to impress them by acting fancy. I think this is a hot take, but I really like this one despite it being pretty generic. It's a basic slob learning to be fancy plotline, but I don't know. Seeing a character try to better themselves, especially to impress their girlfriend, is satisfying to watch. The only problem is that Starla suggests going to a fancy restaurant, so shouldn't she know that her parents are just like Muscle Man and don't care for places like these? Has she not seen her parents in like 10 years and just forgot how they are or something?
It's so much fun.
So much fun.
So much fun.
So much fun.
Benson throws out his stick hockey machine, even though Mordecai and Rigby wanted to use it, so he has to compete in a competition and win it back. This is another one of the rare episodes where Benson does something wrong and Mordecai and Rigby don't. This is refreshing to see, especially for only the first episode in season 3. We find out that Benson was a pro at stick hockey who had an apprentice but lost and...
Oh, my neck!
This made me laugh my ass off. How can they get away with showing someone getting decapitated like this? Anyway, the final match with Benson is pretty cool. It's a stick hockey game, but to the death, except we don't see the other guy die, which sucks.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Hey, Mordecai.
What?
Do you think I'm dumb?
Yes.
Rigby decides to go back to high school to get his degree so he can impress Eileen. Never thought Rigby would ever go back, but more importantly, I did not expect this plot to last for the whole season. Originally, I thought Rigby would either somehow get his degree in this episode, or Eileen would convince him that he doesn't need to waste his time getting it. But no, this is one of the most important plot lines in season 7, and there's multiple episodes that center on this, which is surprising. Also, I love how Rigby goes through all this effort just to impress Eileen. He sort of feels like a completely different character by this point, but I'm not complaining.
I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel Air.
Mordecai and Rigby accidentally erase Gary from existence, so they go to his home planet and try to bring him back. I did not expect to get a Gary episode, but I enjoyed seeing his homeworld a lot. Did some pretty good world building. Gary is apparently a king. He battles his evil brother for the throne by playing music, and it's fucking awesome. While this scene is incredible, I think the episode as a whole is a bit overrated. It feels a lot like an episode from the first few seasons, but sticks out more since this is season 7. We got a lot more slice of life episodes, and more importantly, the quality dropped since then, so this feels like one of the best episodes, even though I'd argue it's just pretty good.
You don't cut loose.
Mordecai and Rigby get drunk and shit talk Benson, Pops, and Skips at a karaoke club. However, they find out that the owner recorded it, so they go back and try to destroy the tape. Don't know why they don't shit talk Muscleman and High Five Ghost. It seems like they aren't that fond of them, especially this early into the show. For some reason, they make fun of Pops and Skips, which seems pretty stupid considering the only thing Skips has ever done was help them out. Pops I can sort of get for being annoying and weird, but making fun of Skips is just... Pop sings Footloose while everyone fights each other. It's one of the series' best brawls, mainly because it's funny seeing how much this fight escalates to the entire building. It also ends with Benson smacking the owner in the face with the tape, which is cool.
Mystery Day. To be continued.
Mordecai and CJ finally go on a real date. However, the owner of the dating site Mordecai used to find CJ comes and tries to get them to break up. I love how dumb the villain is. He wants Mordecai to break up so he can use his website again. The main reason why his site is failing is because it's working too well, since most people stay a couple and never use it again. That's stupid, and this jackass gets what he deserves since CJ kills him. Also, when CJ turns into a storm cloud, she looks like the puppet from FNAF. Anyway, it's nice seeing them go on an actual date, even if it didn't turn out great.
Stupid.
They're not.
Which of the following is not a square?
Gah, this is too hard.
Rigby drinks the Grimace Shake and gets super smart. However, Mordecai drinks it too and they try to outsmart each other. The premise is pretty good, plus I didn't think it would end with Mordecai drinking the juice too. But yeah, not much to say. They both learn that being dumb is better than being smart, so that's smart of them for being dumb.
Hey, come on over, have some fun with Crazy Taxi.
Let me go! What the heck is going on?
Dinner.
Rigby gets scared of taxis after watching Hello Governor, so Mordecai tries to help him get over his fear. It's pretty fun, although not quite as funny as I remember it being back when I saw it on TV. The joke works well, although if you don't find the joke that funny, then you probably won't get much from this besides this iconic moment.
Hello, Governor.
Holy crap, it's real!
Where the heck are we? Martin Luther King St. George Floyd Boulevard?
Mordecai and Rigby bust the cart, so they, along with Benson, go on a road trip to fix it. Maylard is an asshole for putting all the blame on Benson for Mordecai and Rigby's mistake, but then again, if he didn't, then we wouldn't have seen the three of them bond like this. The highlight is easily Benson's breakdown, which is amazing, and it might just be his actor's best performance in the entire series. His delivery, his anger, his sadness, all of it is perfect, and we realize how shit of a life Benson has since he believes he's nothing without his job. Fuck Mordecai and Rigby for making Benson break down like this. They need to get their shit together.
Pointers! That's not regulation!
Street rules, man.
And ready for my arrival.
Benson gets tired of Mordecai and Rigby slacking off, so he installs Peep's cameras all over the park to watch them. Benson is pretty stupid for wasting all this money and eventually time solely on Mordecai and Rigby. If they were really this much of a hassle, then shouldn't he have just fired them? Anyway, how were Mordecai and Rigby able to trick Benson by putting on the dishwashing tape? Did they get lucky and put the tape on while Benson wasn't looking, even though they had no idea where Benson was? Also, I like how they couldn't think of a way to get rid of the third level, so they just wait until Benson is sleeping and destroy the security system.
The security system takes control of Squidward's house and begins attacking the city.
Big motherfucking rig!
Muscleman's dad dies and he finds out that he's been lying about being a trucker to him for his entire life. I thought this was going to be some big sick prank where his dad shows up at the end, which explains how Muscleman learned pranking from a master like his dad. But no, his dad is dead, and surprisingly this ended up being a very mature and solid episode. Muscleman learns that his dad lied to him for his whole life, yet despite this he doesn't hate him and respects his wishes too. It's still regular show though, since the final act has these trucker ghosts prevent Muscleman from spreading his dad's ashes solely because he was only a forklift driver. That's stupid, but in a funny way. Plus it doesn't take away from the more mature tone this episode has. A bunch of dickhead geese come to the park, so the baby ducks come and fuck them up. It's better than the first one, still not amazing or anything, but at least I can see why people would enjoy this a lot. The second half is basically just a giant robot fight between them. It's great, although it ends up kind of shitting on the first half. It's not bad or anything, but on a rewatch, I'm sort of just waiting to get to the fight since it's so much better and cooler. Thankfully, they expanded upon this fight scene in the following Ducks episode, but I'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, we don't have cakes.
Mordecai and Rigby want cake, however they don't have any money to buy some, and that somehow leads to Skips almost dying in front of a bunch of babies in space. I know this is one of the first episodes, so they probably don't have much money, but even so, how can they not afford to buy a $10 cake? Anyway, this is when we learn about Skips being immortal, as well as seeing the giant fat babies who also love smearing chocolate cake on their faces. That's extremely weird, but it's regular show, so it fits in well. The present they give the Skips is good. It's just a crack play that they wrote over, which was obviously done because they forgot about giving him a present. They also complain about the cake being vanilla, and what's wrong with that? Like, yeah, chocolate is better, but vanilla isn't that much worse. It's not like it's strawberry or coffee cake or something stupid like that.
Why are you running?
Pops runs while listening to I Ran, and yeah, this is easily the series' best short. It's a 4-minute long music video, it's got a solid song playing during it, and I wish we got more music videos like this.
Falcon punch!
I think somebody just Death Quan clogged the toilet.
Rigby is tired of losing punches to Mordecai, so he learns a death punch of death. I felt bad for Rigby at first because it's not fair that he always loses punches since he's so much weaker, but then of course he turns into an asshole and abuses his power. They show Rigby's ass cheeks and how one is broken, which, okay. I love how Rigby learns a punch of death not by training and working hard, but instead by solely changing his looks. This means literally anyone can learn the move, which is another reason why it's considered to be so powerful and threatening.
Beautiful morning.
This might be weird and controversial, but I'd say First Day is worse than the pilot, even though they're nearly the same episode. The pilot is around 7 minutes, but here they added in a 2.5-minute intro as well as Muscleman and High Five for like 30 seconds. It really does feel like filler, especially when they don't come back later on. The change in art style is noticeable, but like I'll say later on, the pilot doesn't look that much worse than the first season. It's mostly noticeable when you see an added-in shot from this episode cut to one from the original pilot. The main reason why this is worse is because I'm treating this as a regular episode that's placed in the middle of season 2. Seeing Mordecai and Rigby's first day is cool, but seeing this after 30 episodes just doesn't have the same impact it did when this was the series' very first episode.
I always come back.
Mordecai goes to dinner with Margaret, however it somehow escalates into Freddy Fazbear coming back and trying to kill everyone. Yeah, there's literally no way Scott Cawthon hasn't seen regular show, especially these 2 episodes. Not only did they do FNAF before FNAF, but they did I Always Come Back before it too, which holy shit, this blows my mind JFK style. Anyway, Margaret is a bitch because she tells Mordecai that she got accepted into a college that's like 20 hours away, meaning their relationship probably wouldn't work. Why did you lead Mordecai on like this the entire time and even went out with him for a few weeks if you knew there was a decent chance you'd get into college? Mordecai isn't 100% innocent too, since he knew about Margaret wanting to leave, but still, both of them are dumb for going into a relationship knowing this. As a finale, it's pretty damn good. Seeing the Freddy Fazbear animatronics come back is insanely stupid and funny, especially because it turns into another giant shootout. Still kind of annoyed about Mordecai and Margaret breaking up, especially since it's been built up for so long now. But the way it was handled wasn't bad at all, and I know this isn't saying much, but at least it was better written than CJ breaking up with him.
Your winner is the kind of stuff that turns horrible games into legend.
Mordecai, Rigby, Muscleman, and High Five work together to win a car, however they end up being frozen and wake up 2,000 years into the future. This is one of the better competitions. The Night Owl is a fun one-off villain, plus everyone being 2,000 years in the future was not where I expected this to go. The Night Owl is still alive since he's a talking head. There's a pretty cool car chase scene. It's great. They do the cliche where the characters work together but then fight during a contest, but it's handled well here. Mordecai and Rigby aren't that good of friends with Muscleman and High Five, so it makes sense why they'd be skeptical of them and believe the Night Owl. More importantly though, the car they want to win isn't that cool. I'd rather get something sick like a Jeep. Mordecai, Rigby, and Benson go on a Japanese wipeout game show where if you lose, the host gets to punch you in the face. I love how over the top this one is. The host is cursed, and if he doesn't punch someone in the face after a certain amount of time, then his hand grows really big. Also, if you fool him 3 times, then he gets punched by his own hand and dies. No! Why would the host even try to make the contestants fool him 3 times if he knew this was going to happen to him? Nothing about this makes sense, but I love that, and is why this is one of the best game show episodes.
Money shot.
Yeah! Oh, come on! Are you kidding me?
Rigby makes a bet on a basketball shot but loses his excellent hat, so he trains to try and win it back. I know Rigby is dumb, but even so, betting your excellent hat when Mordecai almost died getting that for you is absolutely ridiculous. I like how the villain is just a guy with a basketball hoop as a head and all of his friends are normal people. They got a basketball, and more importantly, Don comes back, which was very surprising. I know Don is in other episodes, but going into this, I only knew he was in his introduction episode, so this made me happy.
I'm stuck!
What's going on here?
Big mouse. Big mouse.
Up your bitch.
Thomas becomes a spy by working for Jin's park so he can take back a statue he stole from the park. This is one of the rare Thomas episodes, and I wish we got more like this that showed him being a spy. I guess the writers didn't decide to make him a spy until this episode since he was only added so everyone could shit on him for being an intern. That's probably why so many people didn't care for him since he was a useless character that barely added anything. That being said, Thomas secretly being a Russian spy is cool, and I like what they ended up doing with his character. Just wish we got to see more of him do spy stuff, but I guess we got to see that in Guys Night too.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Rigby struggles to make a speech during his high school graduation, but then after that, everyone gets launched into space. This is the season 7 finale. A lot of people seem to love this, which it's pretty good, but I have some issues. First off, isn't this sort of a repeat of Pops being nervous about making his speech? I get that Pops' speech was just a big joke because of how quick it was. Meanwhile, this is taken much more seriously and has more meaning behind it. Rigby's speech is a great moment for him since it shows how much he's grown throughout the series. But even so, the main plot revolves around a character being scared of making a speech, which was already done before. That's really not that big of a deal, but Mordecai being jealous of Rigby graduating is what holds us back from being much higher. Like I said, this is the season 7 finale, so by this point shouldn't Mordecai be mature enough to not be jealous like this? Also, more importantly, he already learned this lesson the hard way since he killed Rigby in an alternate timeline over some stupid bitch. Anyway, the ending sure is something, because this is when the series jumps the shark and sends everyone into space. And as you already know by now, I overall don't like how that was handled, even though I think it could have made for a solid season. Back when this first aired, this must have been very shocking for fans, but watching it now, it's still surprising, even though there are hints towards it throughout the season. Pops tries to make peace with Anti-Pops, however it of course doesn't work, which results in him almost getting killed. His mentor dies, which was unexpected, or at least I didn't expect this to happen here. I love how Pops is so pure-hearted that he still wants to befriend his evil brother despite knowing that he's pure evil. The highlight is easily the last minute. It's a point of view from Pops, the animation is great, his mentor dies, it's awesome sauce.
Your dad's here.
Pops, Mordecai, and Rigby have a rap and poem battle against Tyler the Creator and his funny companions. Apparently, besides Tyler, there's 2 other guest stars, although I have no idea who they are because I only listen to real music like Breaking Benjamin and Disturbed. Kind of surprised they never brought him or anyone else here back since, like I've said, the show loves reusing ideas and characters. Anyway, I like how they all use poetry to literally kill each other.
You really put on quite a show!
Splat! I got 2.
Mordecai has to pick up Margaret and bring her to the airport, however he gets chased by a bunch of crazy people who are mad at him for using his cell phone. That's so stupid, I like it, but what I like seeing more is finally seeing Mordecai and Margaret kiss even though they still aren't going out. The car chase is pretty good, it's nice seeing how Mordecai goes through all this effort just to bring Margaret to the airport, it's a lot of fun.
Hey, Susan! You're fired!
Benson gets demoted and eventually fired, which leads to everyone turning into the new manager, Karen. Maillard is an asshole. He sees that Mordecai and Rigby break his car, but puts all the blame solely on Benson. He did assign it to him, but even so, why doesn't he fire Mordecai and Rigby and write Benson up instead? This is the first Benson-centered episode, and it's still one of his best. This was when we find out that the reason he keeps Mordecai and Rigby around is because he's actually very similar to them. I also love how over the top the last act is. There's a giant Karen, and Benson almost sacrifices himself by driving a limo into her. But then the old park manager, who's also homeless, comes and does it instead.
It's Morbin time.
Rigby asks Margaret to go to the movies with him, which pisses off Mordecai because he's too much of a pussy to ask her out, which eventually leads to
I'll kill you!
Rigby is a bit of a dick, but at the same time, it is frustrating that Mordecai has all these chances to ask out Margaret, but always chooses not to. He's also only asking her out to see a movie, and it's not like he's confessing that he likes her or anything. Rigby might be sort of a jerk, but at the same time, I believe part of him is doing this so Mordecai can become more confident in himself. Then again, Mordecai clearly didn't learn that at all, since he's still a loser for like, the rest of the goddamn series.
Nice car.
Mordecai, Rigby, Benson, and Skips make it to the finals for a bowling tournament. However, Skips quits because Death blackmails him into telling everyone that his real name is Walks. I'm a sucker for bowling episodes. I know it's a bit cliche, but I've always really enjoyed this one. I like how the wizard is back, even though his only appearance was in the power for like 10 seconds. Death is great here. He works better as a villain, although I don't mind that he turned into more of an anti-hero as the show went on. Anyway, I don't know how they end up winning despite the villains cheating. Either Mordecai, Rigby, and Benson aren't that bad, or the villains just suck that bad and couldn't win even while cheating.
Have a holly jolly Christmas.
Everyone is tired of Muscle Man giving them shitty gifts for Christmas, so they all prank him. Don't think this is that much of a hot take, but this is my favorite Christmas episode, and yes, I think it's better than the Christmas special. This feels more like a Christmas episode compared to the others, plus the ending is phenomenal. At first I was kind of annoyed at it because I thought it was going in the generic route with everyone thinking that it's wrong to prank Muscle Man. But no, Muscle Man pranks them and everyone pranks him back, and it's perfect as well as a top 10 moment in the entire series. I'm not a fan of Muscle Man constantly pranking everyone, so to see him get shit on like this, especially to this extent and on Christmas Eve too, is so satisfying. The episode ends with Holly Jolly Christmas playing, Muscle Man gets a shit beaten out of him, and everyone laughs at him in slow motion. A lot of people love this episode, and I feel like if I were to rewatch it, I could see it being placed even higher on the list.
Don't look at our crotches while we synchronize our watches.
Rigby steals a piano from a wizard that takes a piss, then they accidentally send Skips to the moon and go to get him back. This is great, especially as the first episode, mainly because it nails the show's formula perfectly. It takes a super simple premise, but has it escalate into something crazy, all while making Mordecai and Rigby very likable. Characters like Pops and Benson don't get to do a whole lot since it's more focused on Mordecai and Rigby, but that's fine since again, this is only the first episode. The third act is pretty good, plus I never noticed until now, but the monster is a weird fusion of Mordecai, Rigby, and the doll. The only thing that's off is that Benson gives him a raise, especially after they called him a loser. This sort of makes it seem like the two of them are hard workers, even though they usually mess up or slack off. Also, I love how it ends with them covering the hole with the poster on the wall. I wondered why they didn't just do it initially, but then they realize it as soon as the episode is over.
You need to walk to the zoo? Well, who's stopping you?
You weren't exactly brave, Rigby, but I still think you're pretty cool.
Thanks, you too.
Mordecai, Rigby, Margaret, and Eileen go to an abandoned zoo to find Death Bear. This is basically like a better version of the camping episode, except the final act doesn't come out of nowhere, especially since a whole episode builds up to it. This is somehow better than nearly every terror tale. It's still not scary, but at least it's unsettling and creepy. I guess it's because the villain isn't anything supernatural or crazy. It's literally just a strong-ass bear. That's more realistic since there is a chance you can go walking in the woods and be attacked by a bear. Anyway, how far away was the zoo? Did they just run for like 30 minutes non-stop and not pass out? Jesus, JD Vance Christ. They must be in better shape than John Cena. Thomas comes back and celebrates Guys Night with the guys. This is another one of the rare times where a reused plotline is better than the first. Thomas coming back is really cool, especially since it's been over a season since we last saw him. Never thought I'd say this, but I kind of missed him even though I'm glad he left. It's kind of weird why the agents don't care about anyone except for Thomas. Wouldn't they want to interrogate them since they're helping him escape? Thomas is also kind of dumb at the end for popping out of his submarine and showing himself. He could have been caught and killed, but more importantly, where is it going that he'll be free? Both the US and Russia bunch that hate him, so I guess the only place that wouldn't mind him would be Ponyville.
It's prom. It's prom.
You seen Rigby? I'm his father! He's the grown adult who goes to school!
Rigby takes Eileen to the prom, however his dad is furious because he took his car without asking. Rigby's dad is great. He goes to a high school and yells at students in his underwear, which I'm pretty sure this can get you arrested unless you live in California. I know I've already mentioned this, but why is his dad so different from the Thanksgiving episode? It's a big retcon and I feel like it was only done so they could write this episode. His dad learns to appreciate Rigby by the end. It happens way too quickly, although it doesn't ruin the rest of it.
Dude, we're getting the band back together.
18 naked cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch.
Mordecai and Rigby's future selves come and help them become rock stars. This is a great premise, even if the whole time travel plot doesn't make any sense. How were Mordecai and Rigby able to perform so well if they never knew how to sing before? It's not a problem, especially with how great and memorable the ending is. Their future selves wonder what's going to happen to them, and Mordecai responds by saying, "I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise." That hits so fucking hard. They both die. It's awesome, but not as awesome as Benson saying this in a kid show.
Holy.
Rigby fails to do a pull-up, and apparently if he can't do one, then he'll get fired, so he ends up training with Eileen. I've been waiting so long for a Rigby and Eileen episode, and this was well worth the wait. Rigby and Eileen's chemistry is great. She helps motivate him into doing a pull-up and keeping his job, plus Rigby gives her a hug at the end, even if it breaks her spine. Real talk though, pull-ups are hard to do, and this isn't just Rigby being lazy and weak. I think I've only been able to do one pull-up before, or maybe not, I don't remember. I can run and lift decently well, but I'm just too dumb to know how to do a pull-up. Mordecai and Rigby face off against Muscleman and High Five in a basketball game, and if Mordecai wins, then he can use the house's computer to make Margaret a website. I like how shortly after training Mordecai and Rigby, the god of basketball just gives up and gives him superpowers. I didn't expect the god of basketball to play in the game, but I'm not complaining because during it we hear "Hey man, nice shot" by Filter. I've never heard of this band before, but after watching this, I listened to all of their albums and they're not bad at all. More importantly though, how the fuck did they get away with this? Pops is training, however Mordecai and Rigby put on Through the Fire and Flames, which gets everyone stuck in a montage for half the episode. When I started this, I complained that the montage didn't have a cool 80s or 90s song, but then that turned into the episode's entire plot, and it's absolutely crazy. This is one of the most insane regular show plots, especially since half the episode plays almost the entirety of Through the Fire and Flames. Not only is this funny, but it gives an explanation as to how Pops was able to get so strong so fast. Just like the White Elephant gift exchange, I feel like on a rewatch I'd enjoy this a bit more since I know what the episode escalates into.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
I know I already went over First Date, but I think the pilot deserves to be ranked separately since I do think it's notably stronger and one of the best pilots ever. That's because most pilots tend to have notably different and worse character designs, writing, etc., but this almost fits in with any episode from the early seasons. Yes, the character designs are a bit rougher, but not by that much. The comedy is great, the premise is simple and works super well. Pops is fun, Skips doesn't do a whole lot, plus it's kind of weird that Benson is the one to tell them to break the tie. Shouldn't Skips be the one who gives the supernatural advice? That seems pretty off. Anyway, they work at a human zoo instead of a park, which I never knew about until rewatching LS Mark's video where he brought it up. It makes sense why Cartoon Network wouldn't want this, because that would be weird even for regular show standards. I know I already said this, but as a pilot it's great. Meanwhile, as a standalone episode, especially in season 2, it's just not as impressive.
Daddy, no!
Daddy, yes!
Mordecai goes to Margaret's house for a barbecue where he meets her dad and tries to impress him. The reveal of Margaret's father is easily one of the funniest jokes in the series. Her mom introduces Mordecai to like 20 of her family members who are all red birds just like her, only to cut to her dad who's just a regular human. That caught me way off guard and it managed to make me laugh out loud, which is funny considering I've seen this episode before but somehow forgot her dad was a human. Her dad's an asshole, but he's funny, and the rules around here are if you're a funny asshole, then you're okay with me. He also does a cannonball with Mordecai like 1,000 feet in the air and they somehow don't die, but I don't care because it looks cool. Everyone in the Baby Ducks work together to fight against the geese and an evil toy company owner who wants to make toys of Mordecai and Rigby. The intro is an Ava parody and it's great, although I wish it was a full minute and a half long. While I'm sort of just waiting for the fight to start, I'm still glad that this was a full 20-minute episode. The geese fight and the last one was good, but I wish it were longer. Including the transformation sequences, the fight lasts for about half the episode and it's pretty damn cool. It's definitely the best Baby Ducks episode by far, although I wouldn't say it's one of the series' best episodes, even if I get why everyone loves it.
Yeah. It's loading. Okay, now!
Don't get too close now, Pop.
Mordecai and Rigby go to Biggie Cheesers and lie about being astronauts. It's predictable and also unrealistic that the astronauts would believe them, but that being said, it's so fun seeing how far they both lie all day long. It's a regular show classic. It's got a simple premise that leads into something insane. It has a solid 80s track, but most of all, it's a ton of fun. Also, wait, was Benson looking at corn right before Mordecai and Rigby got back? Anyway, this has me in the mood for some grilled cheese now, but I don't know how to make it because I'm too dumb to learn how to cook. Mordecai and Rigby go to a party with Benson while he's unconscious, which makes him mad at first, but then he realizes that everyone now thinks he's super cool. I like how Benson is in love with a regular woman and everyone else there is normal too. That whole theory about regular show being an acid trip sort of has some merit since the only non-human characters are either the main ones or random one-off characters. Anyway, the Mississippi Queen montage is easily one of the series' best. The animation is great and obviously the song slaps. Also, there's no way it's just hot sauce in that drink. There has to be some kind of crack cocaine or ketamine in there.
Rigby, give me some sugar, bro.
I know someone who can help.
If you say your mom, you're fired.
My mom!
The park is being audited, so Rigby is forced to ask his brother Don to come and help fix it. Whoever designed Don deserves a raise. It's literally perfect. He's just Rigby except much taller. That's it. I also love how Don even mentions that he did this intentionally because he thought Rigby was cool and wanted to look like him. Rigby is a jerk here, although this is handled really well and he doesn't end up being that unlikable. Everyone has loved and preferred Don over him, so hating Don makes sense even if he still acts like a dick waffle. Anti-Pop shows up to the space station, the fight pops, so everyone tries to escape. This is one of the most serious episodes and it works pretty damn well. It's so refreshing to see the plot go somewhere, especially since a good amount of the episodes before this were kind of shit. This shows how threatening Anti-Pops is since he can come in anytime and kill anyone he wants without much problems. The only nitpick is that I don't care what happens to any of these new characters they met in space. If they die, I'm sort of like, oh, okay. That's not good, I guess, but check, please.
And you know nothing about scary movies. We'll save the park with our knowledge of scary movies.
Stop singing or you're fired!
Mordecai and Rigby host a zombie movie screening at the park cemetery, however they then have to fight a bunch of zombies. This kicks ass. Like I said, the gang beat the shit out of zombies while they all watch a 3D zombie movie in the park cemetery at night. It ends with them driving the car into the toughest zombie, which blows up, kills him, and destroys the projector. Not only that, but this is also one of the rare happy endings since Mordecai and Rigby actually get a payday off. For some reason, this is sort of seen as a bad thing for them because they have to do another screening at the cemetery the next night. But couldn't they just get a new projector along with a different movie and be fine? Then again, knowing them, I'm sure they'll somehow manage to mess things up. Mordecai believes that Margaret is getting engaged, which makes him depressed. However, he starts online dating and meets CJ. Mordecai misunderstanding Margaret works really well and is actually believable too. She's been with multiple boyfriends over the series, so while unlikely, it is possible for her to get engaged. I know I've seen this episode once before, but still, I'm very surprised to see CJ here since this is only season 3. Then again, it makes sense why she'd leave for 2 seasons since Mordecai was a stupid baka and asked Margaret out to see a movie with him even though he already asked her. What a fucking dumbass. You've spent more time hanging out with CJ instead of Margaret by this point, and you know you share much more in common with her. What's the appeal of this red bimbo bird? Actually, wait, I know, it's ass! Anyway, when Mordecai is depressed, he's listening to some song that sounds like hot ass. He should have been listening to Dear Agony by Breaking Benjamin. That song slaps, man.
Hey guys. Can I get you something to drink, Mordecai?
Mordecai accidentally sees Pops naked, which scars him, so Rigby makes him forget by showing him the 67th greatest show ever, Planet Chaser Starlight Excellent. I haven't seen this episode in like a decade, but somehow I remembered what the anime was called. I don't know if I should feel proud of myself or be disappointed for remembering something so specific, but either way, I still did. Anyway, this is another instance where it's surprising seeing how they managed to make a full episode about Mordecai seeing Pops' penis. If this was on Nickelodeon instead, you know there's no way this episode would have gotten greenlit. Also, it ends with Benson showing his penis, so I wonder whose is bigger. I'm gonna say Pops' penis is bigger, but Benson has the bigger balls. Everyone finds out that Thomas is a spy who works for a Russian organization that wants to blow up the park. This was obviously not planned until the previous Thomas episode, but for what it is, it's great. I like how they explain that Thomas was able to do all of this due to him purposely being so bland and forgettable that no one would expect him to be a spy. They show that during all those times where he sat there and did nothing, he was secretly working on this plan the entire time. Again, this wasn't planned until recently, and despite how jarring it is, it still kind of fits with how over the top and silly the series can be. Like I said, I know some people don't like the direction they took Thomas in, but I think it's one of the best things they could have done with him. The ending is basically perfect too. I wouldn't have wanted Thomas to continue being a regular side character at the park, but I also like that they didn't make him a villain either. Besides coming back in Guys Night 2, he's never seen in the show again, so this is a great send-off for him. Anyway, I know I've also brought this up before, but regular show's timeline makes no sense at all. Bill Clinton is the president, however the series is supposed to take place between 2005 and 2011, I think. It's super vague and unclear, but either way, seeing Bill Clinton is pretty epic. I also like how political this is. The Russians' plan is to take American land, bring it onto their own land, and blow it up. This doesn't violate their treaty because they aren't launching any missiles since the park is the one moving towards the missile, which isn't moving. It's so stupid and over the top, but it fits in line with the rest of the episode, and I love it.
This game's a bunch of poopy ass drippings covered in semen.
There's lots of other characters if you don't like the pixie sorcerer.
No, there aren't. They're all just the same with different costumes.
Mordecai and Rigby buy a shitty board game, so they try to get a refund. It's another classic regular show episode. It's an extremely simple concept that's also somewhat relatable too. What makes this so great is that at the end, we find out that it only cost them $7. I don't know if this shows how stubborn they are that they wasted their time and money on it, or if they just have barely any money to spend that they need this back. Also, there's no way the owner is making a profit by selling the game for 100% off, even with the purchase of gum.
Summertime, and you know what that means. Gonna head down to the beach, gonna do some beachy things.
Look, I'm taking a giant leak.
Rigby gets a catchy song stuck in his head, however he throws it out, and now it's constantly singing around everyone in the house. This is another iconic episode. The song is so catchy, and so is the one they make too. I know it's only one verse, but still, I get it stuck in my head sometimes. It's pretty impressive to see them come up with a catchy song immediately, but then again, Mordecai and Rigby have always been good at coming up with catchy tunes. Also, I'm not even joking. There's a cut verse from the song that apparently aired in the UK, which just listen to it.
If we just ignore it, it'll probably just go away.
Yeah, that's real. This isn't me making some dumb edit, and if you don't believe me, then look it up yourself. Mordecai and Rigby work overtime so they can go to a fist pump concert while also getting help from a giant coffee bean and his Asian translator. This premise is perfect. Rigby genuinely wants to go see this shitty band. Meanwhile, Mordecai only wants to go because
I can't believe you're going to a fist pump concert just for some lady pecs.
Yeah, that's crazy. They outright say Mordecai only wants to go to see Margaret's tits. Anyway, the coffee bean and Asian dude with the chainsaw is so over the top and stupid. They're still one of the best one-off villains. Despite this being one of the first episodes, this shows how Mordecai and Rigby, while slackers, can do their jobs right as long as they're motivated. Also, this has one of the best montages in the show where it plays working for the weekend, which slaps. The only nitpick is that they both fall asleep and miss the concert, which sucks since they tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it didn't even matter.
Happy birthday, Jip.
Just drive the bus, you crazy slop jockey!
Mordecai and Rigby have to set up the chairs for a party, however they slack off, play arcade games, and are dumb enough to unleash Satan himself. I love how dumb some of the arcade games are, plus seeing Satan in a kid show is a bit shocking. Then again, they also have a clown with a hangover who then... yeah, they die on screen, so that's epic, and so is the rest of this. It's another classic, baby.
Clean up this mess, and you can start by sweeping up the special entertainment.
You must die!
Skips kills Rigby after beating him in an arm wrestling match, so he fights death to bring his soul back. This is easily one of the most underrated episodes. It does pretty much everything right. The intro is amazing. It starts with Rigby dying, which immediately gets you hooked. Right after that, we see Skips arm wrestling everyone while they're all clearly hammered. Then somehow Skips loses to Rigby, which is shocking, and you get why he's so frustrated since he's supposed to be the strongest. I love seeing this side of Skips. It's refreshing to see him be so annoyed at something as well as be in the wrong for once. His fight with death is awesome, and he wins by learning how to cheat from Rigby. It's so good, man. Anyway, how does a Playco arm boy even work, and how is it able to beat Skips or anyone else that's super strong? I guess we'll never know.
Stop! Hammer time!
Hey guys, there was a blackout at my place, so I figured that...
Mordecai and Rigby are about to face the hammer, however their TV stops working, so they try to get a new one. I love how everyone gets so invested in seeing this one random final boss in a video game and how they're all here for different reasons. Mordecai and Rigby want to beat the game, Muscle Man just wants to watch them lose, High Five is here because of Muscle Man, Pops has no idea what's going on, and Skips is just there because he has nothing better to do. The build up for the hammer is amazing, the fight against him is great, and he even kills Muscle Man's friend too.
Yo, Muscle Man, my boss found out that I gave you guys that TV and he fired me. It's cool if I crash here for a couple days. What the?
That's right, we're gonna cheat.
Mordecai and Rigby want to be respected, so they dedicate their time to getting the world record at an arcade game. It's kind of weird how Mordecai fails so hard the first time he plays, even though he's supposed to be pretty decent at video games. Rigby is supposed to suck too, but all he does here is mash buttons, so I guess it makes sense. Anyway, we all know why this is one of the absolute best episodes, and that's because of Garrett Bobby Ferguson. He's the best and most memorable villain. He's such a loser and piece of shit since he only cares about keeping his stupid record. Obviously, he's a parody of Billy Mitchell, which is funny and makes this whole episode so much better. Also, for those who don't know, Billy Mitchell tried to sue Cartoon Network over the episode because it lowered his reputation. I don't know that much about him, but wasn't his reputation already not that good around this time since he was accused of cheating before this? His lawsuit went nowhere, which I mean seriously, did you expect to win it and have Cartoon Network ban the episode? Even if you did win it, I'm sure your reputation would be the same, if not worse than it is now for criticizing the episode. I bet when he lost the lawsuit, he got so mad that this happened. Everyone except for Mordecai and Rigby have amnesia, so they help them gain their memories back and then fight off against every single villain in the series up to this point. This is a fan favorite episode, and this is exactly why. There's so much fan service in here, it's actually crazy. While I love this episode, I still can't bring myself to give it a perfect 10 out of 10 due to some reasons. First off, this reminds me a lot of Magical Mystery Cure since they're both amazing episodes that work as they are, although they could have been perfect if given double the runtime. Not only that, but coincidentally, both plots also focus on most of the cast members losing and gaining their memories back, so that's super weird. But yeah, as great as this is, it's still a bit rushed in some areas, and like I've said, this could have been a full-length movie or bare minimum 45-minute special. Everyone living completely different lives is such a cool premise, however most of them get their memories back super quickly. Pops and High Five almost immediately get theirs back, and while Muscle Man's is short, it's so hilarious that I don't even care.
Do you know who else's C equals 8?
Well, actually, yes, I do. It's my mom.
For some reason, there's a piece of paper on the ground in front of Skips' house. It's a business card for his car shop. This is what lets Mordecai and Rigby know that he's there, even though there's no reason for this to be here. It's one thing if Skip still lived here, but he doesn't. This is conveniently here to get the plot going, which is pretty dumb. Anyway, I thought the villain was Garrett Bobby Ferguson originally, but it turns out it was his son, which was surprising. I can't even imagine who would want to fuck him, plus he was never married in the first place, so I guess he got drunk and did a hooker. Besides him, we see all these other villains again, and like I said, it's awesome. They literally did Endgame like 6 years before Endgame. It's all fan service, but it's so cool. It's kind of weird that this happens in only season 4 and seems like something that would happen much later on and during a 5-year anniversary or something. Thomas also gets introduced, but he barely does anything, which I'm sure was done due to time restraints. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I remember Cartoon Network hyping this up as this big episode, which it is, but I refused to watch it back when it aired. That's because on the episode listing on the TV guide, it was listed as 2 separate episodes as part 1 and 2, which is stupid. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like seriously, Teen Titans and fucking My Little Pony are always 30-minute time slots. That's not a special, that's just a regular episode. Pun not intended.
He was number 1.
Rigby goes into a coma after trying to win a trucker hat by eating an omelet, so Mordecai trains and wins it for him. There's a reason this won an Emmy. It's basically perfect, and even before knowing that, this has always been one of my favorite episodes. Literally, whenever I think of food challenges, this is always the first thing that comes to mind. But yeah, this is the prime example of a perfect regular show episode. There's a simple concept that develops into something crazy, the stakes are super high, there's some great character moments, plus it has I Need a Hero play during the montage. It might not be as perfect as the one in Shrek 2, but it's still I Need a Hero, so it's great either way. The stakes are probably the highest they've ever been, but in a realistic way, since Rigby is going to stay in a coma forever unless he gets the hat. There's also this amazing moment where Mordecai punches Benson for saying that it's Rigby's fault for being in a coma. Benson is completely wrong for saying this, even though he's right that they shouldn't have been slacking off. More importantly, this shows how much Mordecai cares for Rigby. He'd punch his own boss who could have easily fired him for this, plus he goes through all this effort to save his life and get him this stupid hat.
Nobody touches me. What's going on here?
After 5 seasons, we finally get to see Skips' past, and holy Jeffrey Epstein, it was well worth the wait. It's kind of typical and predictable. We know Skips is going to fight the bully, his lover is going to die, and that he'll become immortal too. But even then, that just goes to show how fantastic this is, because I love it. A whole episode taking place in high school is unique, or at least for season 5 it was before Rigby went back to school. I also like how this is just a normal high school, except there's a gorilla, a music king, along with 6 magical babies in it, because why not? Forever Young also plays, even though this takes place in the 1800s, which makes no sense, but the song is good, so I don't care. Skips' story is fantastic. I think this, along with Excellent, are literally nipple hairs away from the #1 spot, and well, I think we all know what that is. Yeah, we all knew this was coming. The regular show finale is the best episode in all of regular show. Besides the movie, it's the longest episode in the series since it's 33 minutes long, and this is going to sound weird, but I think this is overrated. I know that makes literally no sense since, I'm ranking it as the best episode in the series, but I have issues with it. The first third is all build up for the fight, which is good, although they waste like 2 minutes setting up a trap for Anti-Pops, even though it's obvious that's not going to stop him. The actual fight is pretty cool, although everyone coming together to form a giant robot was already done in the Baby Ducks robot special, even if it is cooler here. The first 2/3 are solid, however the last third deserves all the praise it gets. It's basically perfect. Pops fights Anti-Pops, the universe resets, and it goes back to the very first episode. They make it back to the present, Pops fights Anti-Pops, and we even get a reference to JG's college short with Pops in it, which is amazing. The universe continues to fall apart, there's post-it notes, storyboards, and even the title card shows up. It's flippin' crazy. There's of course the moment where Pops sacrifices himself, which is phenomenal. I'm not saying I'm glad he died, but after building up his death, it would have felt underwhelming to see him live or somehow make his brother good. Yes, he does change his brother, but they both still die, which I think is the best way they could have ended both their characters. The ending montage is also fantastic. Heroes by David Bowie plays, and we see that everyone lived a happy life. Muscleman and Starla had kids, High Five stayed with his girlfriend, Benson is with Pam, plus Eileen and Rigby got married. For some strange reason, the animators fucked up and drew Mordecai's wife incorrectly though, because Twilight Sparkle is a bat here, even though she's an alicorn. Anyway, as amazing as this montage is though, I really wish it was longer because I wanted to see more from these characters. There's just enough here to appreciate it for what it is, but still, I wanted more. This is not a perfect finale, it's not even a perfect regular show episode, but considering what it manages to accomplish, especially in season 8, which was super mixed, it's crazy seeing how well this turned out. Skips' story and Excellent are overall less flawed and arguably better than this, but this being the end to the entire series gives so much more weight to it that it doesn't matter if there's a handful of things to nitpick about. Despite some issues, it really wouldn't feel right placing this anywhere other than the #1 spot.
Ow! What was that for?
You're not thinking about the song anymore, are you?
Holy shit, that took a lot longer than expected, but if you've seen my other rankings, then you'd know that this isn't where the video ends. That's because it's now time to do the math and see which season of regular show is the best and which is the worst. So let's... oh wait, I haven't done the math yet. Okay, hold up. Give me like 20 minutes.
20 minutes later.
Number 8.
Okay, that was not 20 minutes and more like an hour, but either way, season 6 is surprisingly the weakest season of regular show. I would have bet money that season 8 was going to be the worst and by a decent amount, but no, I was... Anyway, I guess one of the reasons why it's not good is due to the love triangle episodes. There's multiple of them that suck, especially the finale, which is one of the series' worst episodes. Looking back, the entire season is such a big mixed bag with barely any standout episodes besides the Baby Ducks anime and Thomas one. Everything else is either just good, alright, mediocre, or bad, which is why the season is kind of,
Number 7.
Oh boy, season 8 is also not good, but surprisingly it wasn't the worst season. The first half is the worst part of the series by far. There's a small amount that's worth watching, but most of it is either average or outright sucks. They could have done so much with this season, yet they wasted half of it with pointless filler. Not only that, but the series is now in space, which sounds kind of exciting since everyone is underprepared and has no idea what could happen to them. But after the literal second episode, they go to a space station, stay there, and do barely anything. And not only that, that, but we find out that they can go back to Earth anytime they want, which ruins any kind of stakes the season had. What's the point of even writing this if you weren't going to do anything with it? You know what would have been interesting? Showing the characters feel homesick since they're away from all their family members. We get a very small amount of this, but it's rarely brought up, which sucks because this is something that sounds like a great idea. But no, we spent half the season in a space station, had useless fillers that weren't that good, and even after the plot develops, we still got not one, but two bad holiday specials. I know some people don't like the idea of sending the characters to space because it really is them jumping the shark and doing something completely different. But you know what? After 7 seasons and over 200 episodes, I think a big change like this is acceptable and somewhat warranted. My problem is that the season pussied out and didn't commit to everything it wanted to do. They sent the cast to space, introduced an overarching narrative as well as some lore too, yet still wanted the show to be a regular episodic series. They had all this filler, wasted a lot of time, plus again, they didn't have the cast explore that much of space. Yes, they do go to different areas, and it's not like the entirety of the season takes place in the space station, but still, it's a big missed opportunity. They also introduce a handful of characters that I don't give a shit about, except for maybe Blu-ray, who's alright. I guess what makes this better than season 6 is that final batch of episodes, but even then, I don't love them as much as most people, except for the finale, of course. If it weren't for those, and especially the finale being so fantastic, I doubt the series would be remembered as strongly as it is now.
Number 6.
Season 7 is barely better than 8, but still, I kind of expected all of the later seasons to be towards the bottom. This is basically the same as season 6, except the love triangle episodes are replaced with Rigby being in high school as well as the dumb ones. I enjoy Rigby going back to high school, and I appreciate that the season stuck with his plotline since it ended up being important for Rigby's character. The dome plot is cool for the first and second time, but after that, it just felt kind of average, even if it did lead to them going to space. But yeah, not much to say. It's kind of just a better season 6, but lacks some of the higher placed episodes it had.
Number 5.
Season 5 is, more of season 6 and 7, I guess. This marks the second half of the series, and you can really tell because a lot of the season was much more slice of life and regular than regular show has been. A lot of fans prefer the first few seasons because of how crazy and creative the show got, but honestly, I'm not opposed to this change. Yes, the series does lose part of its identity and charm by doing this, but at the same time, regular show had been using the same formula for years. It may have been great and worked, but even as early as season 3, it was starting to get old. Seeing a bunch of crazy shit happens is fun, but when it happens all the time, it starts to feel less crazy and more generic. As a concept, I don't mind the less extreme and slice of life tone the later seasons have, but what I do have a problem with is the quality of these episodes. Compared to the earlier seasons, they just aren't as good or memorable. There are standout episodes, and the thing is, they can't have great episodes that are more down to earth and don't have final acts where shit always hits the fan. For example, Real Date is for the most part a very standard date episode, except for like the last minute where CJ goes crazy and kills someone. But besides that, it feels like an episode that could have been written in any other sitcom, but that's not inherently a bad thing. It's good that the show slowed down and developed these characters and their relationships more, although I wish the writing was notably better.
Number 4.
Season 4 is considered to be the last solid season of a regular show, which I don't agree with since it's barely much better than season 5. This season introduced Thomas, who most people hate, and for good reason too, since he does literally nothing. His introduction episode might have been one of the series' best, but that doesn't mean he gets to sit around here and do nothing for 2 seasons straight. Anyway, we got the first Christmas special here, and unfortunately started the tradition of having a terror tale every Halloween, which as you know, I don't care for at all. Mordecai and Margaret get together, even though it's only for like 10 episodes, but at least it happened. There's really not much to say about this season, and it's sort of like an in-between of seasons 3 and 5. You can tell it's weaker and more down to earth than season 3, but it's also not as severe as season 5 is. Either way, it's not great, but still alright since there are some really good ones here.
Number 3.
My friend hurt his hand. He can't play.
His hand looks fine to me.
Wanna check again?
Season 3 is the longest season, totaling at 39 episodes, and this might be a hot take, but it's considerably weaker than the first 2. Pretty sure most people agree that seasons 1 through 3 are the best, but I'd say 1 and 2 are in a whole separate tier. While this is notably weaker, there's still a good amount of solid episodes. Even if the series was becoming less consistent and having overall weaker episodes, they were still pumping out episodes like Slam Dunk, Wrap It Up, and Weekend at Benson's. This is the first season that had somewhat of an overarching narrative, even if it's very bare bones. Basically, Margaret starts to like and show feelings for Mordecai, although the most that happens is them kissing in the finale, which gets undone anyway, so that sucks.
Number 2.
Benson, this has gone too far.
Yeah, I can't work.
I haven't been able to sleep in a fortnight.
I think you've noticed a pattern by now, but for those who haven't, literally every season with the exception of 6 got worse as the show went on. The ranking starts with season 1 at the top, goes down to season 8, and then below that is season 6, which is very strange, although not that shocking. Anyway, we finally reached the golden age of regular show, which are sadly just the first 2 seasons. I know I have nostalgia for these episodes, but even on a rewatch, they're still some of the best the series has to offer. Season 2 is pretty good. There's a couple that are just alright, with the only major exception being Do Me a Solid, which is awful. There's not much to say besides that though, since this is basically just more of season 1. There's no overarching narrative, and the most we get are character introductions like Death, Eileen, Starla, and some others. But yeah, if I ever wanted to watch some random episodes of regular show, I'd watch a lot of these, along with most from the first season, which speaking of that...
Number 1.
Whoa! Skips is gonna be so surprised when he comes in and sees us totally naked.
It's not that kind of party, muscle man.
Oh. Don't turn on the lights.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious season 1 was going to be the best, and half of that is due to how short it is, being only 12 episodes long. I don't know why this and season 2 weren't just considered one season. Season 2 aired immediately after season 1 ended, plus they both would be as long as half of the other seasons. Also, even if these were just one season, while it would be rated a bit lower, it would still be leagues better than all the other seasons. Anyway, the other reason why this is so good is because, the episodes are so good. A large majority of these episodes are either an 8 or 9 out of 10, plus there's only one not good episode, which isn't even that bad. This is regular show at its finest. The formula was fresh and interesting, the simplicity worked so well, and most of the episodes had a fun and memorable premise. Yes, there weren't any overarching narratives, but the series didn't need that to be great, which is part of why season 1 will always be the best.
Do me a solid and fluff this cushion.
Sharpen my pencil.
Fold these socks.
Cheese these nuts.
Oh my goodness gracious, I'm done. I'm finally fucking done. I ranked over 250 episodes, including the pilot, shorts, as well as the movie too. Like always, it was fun going back and rewatching a show I grew up with, even if I've never seen half of it before this. I go into these rankings expecting to enjoy these series less now, and as for a regular show, it is true that I do have a notably worse opinion on the show. However, that's mainly due to the series getting worse, and notably quickly too, as early as the 3rd season. I'd still say overall the first 3 seasons are good, and those are what I mainly grew up watching. So going off memory, regular show didn't disappoint in that aspect. However, its second half and arguably its later 2/3 are a considerable downgrade. Besides the first half of season 8, I'd never quite say the series went completely downhill and got bad, but it clearly lost what made it special. Yes, there are episodes that fit in with the earlier seasons, there are standout moments, and the finale is widely considered one of, if not the series' best episode. But there's so many mediocre, just okay, and even outright bad episodes that make up the later seasons. You can get a decent amount of enjoyment from those seasons, but you have to skip a decent chunk of episodes. Because of that, I hate to say this, but regular show is unfortunately not that great of a series when you look at it as an overall package. Obviously, there's aspects I love about it. The jokes, the premises, the nostalgic vibe and tone, the 80s and 90s songs, there's a decent amount to appreciate here. That being said, I feel like whenever I hear people praise a show, they're usually referring to the first few seasons. That's fine and all, but considering a pretty good amount of it is just overall alright, I'm going to make a bold statement and say that as a whole, it's pretty overrated. I still like the series, flaws and all, but honestly, this is my least favorite series that I've watched for these ranking videos so far. If I had to give an overall final score for the entire series, I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's... Anyway, this video took an insane amount of time to write, record, and edit, especially considering this is now my longest video yet. So if you want to support and help me continue making videos, then you can leave a like, comment, share, or subscribe. You can also join the Discord server, support me on Patreon, or even become a channel member here on YouTube starting at only 99 cents.
But shit, it was...
For those who don't know, I started making polls where I let you guys decide what show I should rank and review next. Last time you guys voted and chose regular shows, so I'll let you guys do it yet again. When this comes out, I'll make a new poll which will include Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, Fairly Odd Parents, and Danny Phantom, so you can all vote for which of those I'll review next. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I'm fucking exhausted. Peace out, every pony, and remember, dicks out for Harambe. Also, special shout out to Rock Shane, Marvin Mack, Alice Wilson, and Meme Machine for being channel members, and Mega for being a patron. Thanks for supporting the channel.
Rigby? What's going on here?
Big nose.